Chapter 1762. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The pill was silvery white. With the pill as the center, the surrounding space seemed to twist and warp. A small whirlpool formed in the air. A terrifying suction force emanated from the small whirlpool, sucking in all the surrounding yuan qi. The yuan qi that was sucked into the whirlpool didn't remain inside. Instead, it hovered in the air for a moment before entering the pill. This elixir can forcefully raise your cultivation from the initial phase to the pinnacle heavenly sovereign realm. Lu Chuanji waved the pill in his palm. Release Di Xiao and He Jiming, and I'll give you this pill. Words alone are no proof. How are you going to prove it? Ningyu rolled his eyes. Why would I lie to you? If you don't believe me, you can eat it first. With a cold snort, Lu Chuanji flicked his wrist and tossed the pill at Ningyu. Whoosh! The pill was so fast that it reached Ningyu in the blink of an eye. Seeing the pill flying towards him, Ningyu's first reaction was to retreat. But when the human demon's words rang in his ears, he regained his composure. The pill is fine. You can swallow it. Although the human demon was inside the Tower of the Ascension, his senses were strong enough to determine the authenticity of the pill. The pill Lu Chuanji had taken out wasn't particularly precious in a higher plane. To Lu Chuanji, a pill that could raise a Sky Supreme's cultivation by several levels was as common as it could get. Generally speaking, Lu Chuanji wouldn't carry such a pill on him. The only reason Lu Chuanji had such a pill was because he'd brought it with him when he descended from a higher plane to support the immortal spirit realm's native experts. There were only 3 pills in total. Lu Chuanji didn't even frown when he gave one to Ningyu. Fine, I'll believe you this once. Since the human demon had said there was no problem with the pill, Ningyu didn't argue any further. In the next moment, Ningyu raised his right hand and firmly grasped the pill in his hand. Kacha! After catching the pill, Ningyu did not say anything harsh, but directly threw the pill into his mouth and chewed. Under the effect of Ningyu's teeth, the pill was instantly split into 2 halves. The 2 halves of the pill quickly melted. Rich energy flowed into Ningyu's body and filled every meridian. The energy first flowed through Ningyu's tendons and meridians before entering Ningyu's sea of consciousness along the tendons and meridians. Rumble. Just as the energy entered his sea of consciousness, Ningyu felt as if his sea of consciousness was about to explode. Fortunately, the pain didn't last long before it returned to normal. Otherwise, Ningyu would probably die from the pain. Drip, drip. But even so, large beads of sweat still appeared on Ningyu's forehead. Beads of sweat kept dripping. Ningyu's nerves became tense. Because Ningyu discovered that his sea of consciousness, which hadn't loosened for a long time, was starting to loosen. I'm about to reach the mid-stage Sky Supreme. Ningyu was shocked. Previously, Ningyu had fantasized about how he could reach the mid-stage Sky Supreme, slowly accumulate, and then someone else imbue him. Ningyu had thought of all these methods, but using a pill to raise his cultivation to the mid-stage Sky Supreme level was something Ningyu had never considered. But the truth was right in front of him, and Ningyu had no choice but to believe it. Senior Human Demon, please keep an eye on Lu Chuanji. I'm about to reach the mid-stage Sky Supreme level. Without any preparation, Ningyu didn't dare to advance in front of Lu Chuanji. Only with the human demon's protection would Ningyu dare to attempt to advance. Don't worry, before he rescues He Jiming, he won't make a move against you. The human demon was very open-minded. If a peak sage cultivator like Lu Chuanji wanted to make a move against Ningyu, he would have done so long ago. There was no need to wait until now. Since Lu Chuanji wanted to save He Jiming, he definitely wouldn't make a move against Ningyu before He Jiming was rescued. After receiving the human demon's reply, Ningyu gathered all his soul energy and essence qi into his sea of consciousness. Charge! Ningyu shouted in a low voice. Bang! A dull sound came from Ningyu's sea of consciousness. Then, a terrifying aura surged out from Ningyu's sea of consciousness and soared into the sky. Mid-stage Sky Supreme. At this moment, Ningyu directly broke through the early-stage Sky Supreme Realm and reached the mid-stage Sky Supreme Realm. Crack! Along with the increase in his cultivation, Ningyu's soul force also rose. Originally, Ningyu's spiritual force had been at the peak of Grade 8. Now that he was a mid-stage Sky Supreme, his spiritual force had also broken through to the early-stage Grade 9. I didn't expect to use this method to advance to the mid-stage Sky Supreme Realm. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu forced himself to calm down. For Ningyu, even if he reached the mid-stage Sky Supreme Realm, he still wouldn't be able to fight against an early-stage sage. According to Ningyu's speculations, unless he reached the late-stage Sky Supreme Realm and improved his spiritual force, he would only be able to hold his own against an early-stage sage. However, Ningyu's strength had increased several-fold from the early stage to the mid-stage Sky Supreme Realm. At the very least, Ningyu would have an overwhelming advantage against a half-step sage. Can you release He Jiming and Di Xiao now? Lu Chuanji stared at Ningyu and said coldly, I've given you the elixir and used it to advance to the mid-stage Sky Supreme Realm. As long as you release He Jiming and Di Xiao, I guarantee that I'll hand over control of the cold-looking man and the smiling tiger to you. Stop. Ningyu waved his hand and said, I seem to remember someone saying that the elixir could raise my cultivation from the early stage Sky Supreme Realm to the pinnacle Sky Supreme Realm. Now, I've only reached the mid-stage Sky Supreme Realm. Don't you have anything to say? Lu Chuanji's brows twitched when he heard Ningyu's words. He vaguely felt that something was amiss. That's right. Wasn't that silver-white elixir supposed to raise Ningyu's cultivation to the pinnacle Sky Supreme Realm? Why did he only reach the mid-stage Sky Supreme Realm? Could it be that the elixir was fake? Lu Chuanji didn't doubt that Ningyu had tampered with the elixir. With his powerful senses, he discovered that Ningyu had indeed devoured the elixir's energy. Under such circumstances, Lu Chuanji could only suspect that someone had given him a fake elixir. Being stared at by Ningyu's slightly mocking gaze, Lu Chuanji's expression turned ugly to the extreme. He was the young master of the sacred divine palace. Now he was being mocked by an early-stage Sky Supreme. No, a mid-stage Sky Supreme. If this matter were spread, how could he maintain his standing in the sacred divine palace? Forget it. As long as you give me 8 or 10 more of those elixirs, I'll release He Jiming and Di Xiao. Chapter 1763. 8 or 10 elixir pills. Are you sure you're not joking? Lu Chuanji's face was terrifyingly dark. If it wasn't to ensure the safety of He Jiming and Di Xiao, he would have attacked Ningyu long ago. Why would he wait until now? Now that Ningyu was being insatiable, his patience was almost exhausted. Once his patience was exhausted, he would definitely attack. Even if he had to give up on He Jiming and Di Xiao, he would kill Ningyu to vent his hatred. As if reading Lu Chuanji's mind, He Jiming flicked his wrist and a golden feather appeared in his hand. He Jiming clutched the golden feather tightly, as if it was a life-saving straw. He shouted at Lu Chuanji, Young master, save me. Swoosh! He Jiming's sudden action made Lu Chuanji's originally dark face even more frighteningly gloomy. A threat. A naked threat. Ningyu and the rest didn't know what the golden feather was, but he knew it very well. The golden feather was the most crucial link to gain the upper hand in the fight for the celestial spirit source. It could be said that without the golden feather, even if there were a few more peak sage warriors, they wouldn't be able to get close to the celestial spirit source, let alone fight for it. The moment He Jiming took out the golden feather, Lu Chuanji knew what He Jiming was planning. He Jiming was afraid that he would kill him, so he used the golden feather as a shield. Taking a deep breath, Lu Chuanji suppressed the anger in his heart and said in a low voice, Don't worry, you are from the sacred divine palace, and I will not allow anyone from the sacred divine palace to be killed in front of me. Thank you, young master. Thank you, young master. Receiving Lu Chuanji's affirmation, He Jiming hurriedly thanked him. As long as young master can ensure my safety, I will immediately give this golden feather to young master. I don't need it. You should keep it for yourself. Lu Chuanji shook his head, as if he didn't care about the golden feather. Ningyu obviously didn't care about the conversation between Lu Chuanji and He Jiming. At this moment, Ningyu's attention was completely attracted by the golden feather in He Jiming's hand. Although the golden feather did not look special on the surface, Ningyu knew very well that it must be something extremely important. Otherwise, Lu Chuanji wouldn't have revealed his killing intent in that instant. Thinking of this, Ningyu gradually came up with a countermeasure. I don't have 8 or 10 pills. I only have 2 pills left. At this moment, Lu Chuanji's cold voice rang out. I'll give you the 2 pills, and you release He Jiming and Di Xiao. No problem, but the condition is that you give me the control of the stern man and the smiling tiger. Ningyu nodded and said. Lu Chuanji did not continue to speak. Instead, he kicked the cold-looking man's butt and sent him flying towards Ningyu. Bang! Lu Chuanji's control of strength was very precise. The cold-looking man fell heavily in front of Ningyu and fell flat on his face. Xiao, following closely behind the cold-looking man, was a silver-white pill. The pill drew an arc in the air and landed steadily in front of Ningyu. Ningyu did not have any misgivings. He reached out with his right hand and grabbed the pill. After a brief inspection, Ningyu directly threw the pill into his storage ring. Although Ningyu did not seem to be afraid of Lu Chuanji tampering with the pill, he was actually quite worried. Just because the previous pill was fine didn't mean that the current pill was fine. Ningyu did not want to be schemed against by Lu Chuanji, so he could only throw the pill to the human demon for him to inspect. Senior human demon, are you controlling the stern man? Or am I controlling him? After throwing the pill into the tower of Yuzuan, Ningyu stared at the stern man in front of him and began to communicate with the human demon. Temporarily lock him up in the tower of Yuzuan. I will seal his sea of consciousness to prevent him from causing trouble in the tower of Yuzuan. The human demon seemed to have already considered this. Without any hesitation, he said, in addition, you can return He Jiming and Di Xiao to Lu Chuanji, but do not release your control over them. Understood. Ningyu nodded slightly, indicating that ginger was still spicier with age. It had to be said that the human demon's method was the best for now. In the next instant, with a thought, Ningyu opened his storage ring and sucked the stern-looking man into it. Ningyu did not want to expose the tower of Yuzuan to Lu Chuanji, especially when the human demon was still in it. He Jiming belongs to you. Once everything was ready, Ningyu waved his hand at Lu Chuanji. I've already released my control over him. You'd better do that. Lu Chuanji snorted coldly and immediately waved both of his hands. He set up a small formation around He Jiming and sealed him. The reason why Lu Chuanji dared to do this after getting Ningyu's reply was because Lu Chuanji was afraid that if he rashly sealed He Jiming, Ningyu would kill He Jiming regardless of everything. After all, He Jiming was still under Ningyu's control. If things went wrong, Ningyu might make He Jiming self-destruct. Now that Lu Chuanji had sealed He Jiming, he no longer had to fear Ningyu's influence. Go! After the first transaction was successful, Lu Chuanji immediately kicked out Smiling Tiger and threw the second pill at Ningyu. Smack! Catching the pill, Ningyu casually tossed it into his storage ring. As for the Smiling Tiger, Ningyu looked him up and down before tossing him into his storage ring. Di Xiao, you go. Ningyu wasn't an unreasonable person. He tossed the Emperor Flute from the Tower of Yu into his spatial ring, then out of his spatial ring. Seeing Ningyu toss out the Di Xiao, Lu Chuanji's tense nerves eased up a little. Waving his hands, Lu Chuanji also set up a small formation around the Di Xiao, thoroughly sealing it. All of you, stay here obediently. After sealing the Di Xiao, Lu Chuanji took out a gourd-shaped spatial artifact and stored the Di Xiao and He Jiming into it. Smack! Closing the lid, Lu Chuanji turned to look at Ningyu and coldly said, You're the first heavenly sovereign that dares to extort me. The first heavenly sovereign that extorted you? Ningyu's brows twitched in disappointment. Does that mean that a manifestation realm or saint realm cultivator has extorted you in the past? It's a pity that I couldn't be the first to do so. Sharp tongue, Lu Chuanji shouted in a low voice. His figure immediately dashed out and dashed towards Ningyu. After saving He Jiming and the Di Xiao, Lu Chuanji no longer had any worries. Under such circumstances, Lu Chuanji naturally had to teach Ningyu a lesson and let Ningyu know what cruelty was. White-haired old man, and Haoping, go. Although he was provoking Lu Chuanji with words, Ningyu didn't dare to be careless in his actions. Ningyu wasn't stupid enough to fight with a pinnacle Saint Realm cultivator. Chapter 1764. Swoosh, swoosh. Be it in Haoping or the white-haired old man, they had no other choice but to face it head-on. Both of them were under Ningyu's control. If they didn't defend against Lu Chuanji, they would die for sure. If they did, they might have a chance to live. In the face of death, and Haoping and the white-haired old man were afraid. The two of them dashed out, one on the left and one on the right, charging at Lu Chuanji. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants to attack me. They're all seeking death. Lu Chuanji's target was originally Ningyu, but when he saw Haoping and the white-haired old man rushing towards him, he immediately changed his direction and decided to use Haoping and the white-haired old man as practice. Boom! A huge battle broke out. In midair, Lu Chuanji was the main attacker, while Haoping and the white-haired old man defended. The result was as expected. Under Lu Chuanji's powerful attacks, Haoping and the white-haired old man could only defend passively and retreat step by step. If this situation continued, it wouldn't be long before Haoping and the white-haired old man were defeated. Being defeated wasn't scary. What was scary was that Lu Chuanji wanted to kill them and put them to death. Not long ago, Lu Chuanji only used a few minutes to defeat the cold-looking man and the smiling tiger. If Lu Chuanji wanted to kill Haoping and the white-haired old man now, he would only need 10 minutes at most. Think of a way to lure Lu Chuanji over. The battle lasted for 3 minutes. The human demon's solemn voice suddenly rang in Ningyu's ears. Hearing that, Ningyu was slightly stunned. Then, he began to instruct Haoping and the white-haired old man. Ningyu knew that if the human demon dared to say something like that, it meant that he had a certain degree of confidence in dealing with Lu Chuanji. Since the situation was not favorable to them, they might as well fight to the death. As the saying went, a bicycle could become a motorcycle. If they didn't fight, everyone would die in the end. Although the human demon had swallowed the immortal ascension grass and raised his cultivation to late-stage sage. But even with the human demon, there was no way they could stop Lu Chuanji's powerful attacks. The only thing they could do now was to wait for Haoping and the white-haired old man to lure Lu Chuanji over and let the human demon launch a sneak attack. If the sneak attack was successful, he could force Lu Chuanji to retreat temporarily. But if it failed, everyone would die together. Whoosh, whoosh. After receiving Ningyu's reply, Haoping and the white-haired old man felt as if they had been granted amnesty. They hurriedly changed their direction and flew towards Ningyu. Because Haoping and the white-haired old man's movements were very obvious, Lu Chuanji frowned and faintly felt that something was wrong. Are you trying to sneak up on me? Lu Chuanji's heart stirred. He seemed to have guessed Ningyu's plan. I'll pretend that I don't know and beat them at their own game. Where do you think you're going? With a loud shout, Lu Chuanji dashed toward Haoping and the white-haired old man. Haoping and the white-haired old man flew in front while Lu Chuanji chased after them. Lu Chuanji's speed of pursuit was not particularly fast. In fact, it could even be said to be very slow. He maintained the distance between him and the white-haired old man, but not to the extent that he would be left behind. 3 steps, 2 steps now is the time. Seeing that Lu Chuanji was about to pass by Ningyu, the human demon waved his hands and punched at Lu Chuanji with violent yuan qi. Ha ha! This is the moment I've been waiting for. The fist that suddenly shot out from Ningyu's body did not cause Lu Chuanji the slightest bit of panic. On the contrary, Lu Chuanji laughed and counterattacked. Similarly, he punched out and collided with the fist in front of him. Crack! The 2 fists collided. A crisp sound rang out. Then, a slightly bloated body shot out from Ningyu's body. Not good. It's a smiling tiger. The martial artist that suddenly shot out from Ningyu's body caused Lu Chuanji's expression to change drastically. Lu Chuanji could not care less. He immediately retreated and quickly flew into the distance. At this point, if Lu Chuanji still did not know what Ningyu's plan was, he would be a failure. Mutual destruction. Smiling Tiger's bloated body was not really bloated, but a sign of self-destruction. Lu Chuanji did not expect Ningyu to be so decisive. The power of a late-stage Saint martial artist self-destruction was unimaginable. Lu Chuanji did not want to be a living target here, so he immediately decided to leave. Anyway, He Jiming and Di Xiao had been rescued by him, so there was no need to stay. It was better to take this opportunity to leave the Emperor Divine Palace as soon as possible to avoid any trouble. After all, Ningyu could face a peak Saint martial artist with a Sky Supreme cultivation without any change of expression, which was enough to show that he was extraordinary. Whoosh! Lu Chuanji's figure flashed out. Lu Chuanji's speed was very fast. Almost in an instant, he tore the void and disappeared without a trace. Crack! Lu Chuanji disappeared, but Smiling Tiger did not stay idle. A crack appeared in the void, and Smiling Tiger directly entered it. Looking at Smiling Tiger's posture, it was obvious that he wanted to chase after Lu Chuanji. Of course, Human Demon was not particularly concerned about whether Smiling Tiger could catch up to Lu Chuanji. At this time, Human Demon had already rushed out of the Tower of Yuzuan. Smiling Tiger can't fool Lu Chuanji for long. We must leave in half an hour. The first thing Human Demon said after he came out was to remind Ningyu. Perhaps Lu Chuanji could not tell that Smiling Tiger's self-destruction was fake in a short time, but as time went on, he would definitely find some clues. At Lu Chuanji's level, if he thought about it carefully, he could understand many things. No need to wait for half an hour. Let's leave now and return to Giant Shield City. Ningyu did not want to face a terrifying martial artist like Lu Chuanji again. Since the Emperor Divine Palace's matter had come to an end, it was better to leave as soon as possible. The earlier they left, the safer they would be. Ningyu understood this very well. All right, then let's not delay and leave immediately. Back to Giant Shield City. Not only did Ningyu not want to stay, but Human Demon also did not want to stay. After experiencing so many things in the Emperor Divine Palace, Human Demon had a vague feeling that things were not going well. So many sage martial artists had come to the immortal spirit realm from the higher planes, which meant that the plane barrier had loosened a little. Under such circumstances, there might be martial artists coming to kill him. Therefore, Human Demon's idea was very simple. Leave the Emperor Divine Palace first, then use a secret technique to completely conceal Ningyu's aura. As for where to go next, Human Demon decided to go to the Pill Completion Continent's Alchemy Union to find something important there. As long as he could find that thing, Human Demon was confident that he could suppress the energy seal in his body and raise his cultivation to the peak of the Sage Realm. Although Lu Chuanji had left, trouble still existed. Human Demon did not want Lu Chuanji to find Ningyu for revenge. He wanted to rely on his own strength to get rid of this obstacle. Thinking of this, Human Demon took the lead and flew out of the Emperor Divine Palace. All of you come in. Seeing that Human Demon had left, Ningyu did not stay for long. He put Zhang Chong, the white-haired old man, and Haoping, Zhang Kajuan, and the others into the Tower of Yuzu, then disappeared in a flash behind Human Demon. Buzz. Chapter 1766. Zhou Shun had never been so angry before. Elder Tianji had said that he was not as good as Ningyu. Ninglu had also said that he was not as good as Ningyu. Even the Jin family sage who had interacted with him had said that he was not as good as Ningyu. Although he was angry, Zhou Shun had already thought of a way to deal with Ningyu and those people who had mocked him. 2 hours. Elder Tianji would teach him the divination technique if he held on for another 2 hours. Once he really mastered the divination technique, he would become a VIP in the Sky Fiend region and even in the Celestial Spirit region. Zhou Shun was not worried that Elder Tianji would go back on his word. Elder Tianji had always been a man of his word. If he said that he would teach him the divination technique, he would definitely do it. Of course, the condition was that he had to wait for another 2 hours. Zhou Shun had waited for so many years. The last 2 hours was naturally not a problem. Xie, contact the Jin family sage. Although Zhou Shun had already thought of a way to deal with Ningyu, Zhou Shun was still a little worried at this time. After thinking for a moment, Zhou Shun said to Xie, "You only have one mission, which is to guard the gate of Giant Shield City. As long as Ningyu dares to appear, stall him. No matter what, you have to stall him for 2 hours." If one did not think far ahead, one would have immediate worries. Elder Tianji's condition was very simple. If Ningyu did not appear in the hall within 2 hours, he would teach him the divination technique. Zhou Shun was very smart. To ensure that Ningyu would not appear in the hall within the stipulated time, he felt that he had to send Xie and the Jin family sage. If not for the fact that he was afraid that Ning Lu and the rest would resist, he would have even sent Guoliang. After all, one more person meant one more layer of insurance. Swoosh! After Xie left, Zhou Shun leaped up and landed on the chair at the head of the hall. He sat down and closed his eyes to rest. 2 hours wasn't short, but it wasn't long either. Zhou Shun felt that he should not be overly worried. He should remain calm. Zhou Shun was calm, but Ning Lu and the others in the hall were not. They were even very anxious. Ning Lu and the others were anxious, not for the safety of Ningyu, but for their own safety. Ningyu had the terrifying human devil sage by his side, so his life was naturally not in danger. But they were different. If Ningyu did not rush back with the human demon within 2 hours, they would really be finished. Come back quickly. Ning Lu wasn't the only one praying for Ningyu's quick return. Everyone else in the hall was also secretly praying for Ningyu's quick return. Praying was praying, and no one spoke. For a moment, the atmosphere in the hall became gloomy. Ningyu knew nothing about the changes in Giant Shield City. Not long after they parted ways, Ningyu headed for Giant Shield City without stopping. Because he wanted to see Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor as soon as possible, as well as to arrange Supreme Hall's next move as soon as possible, Ningyu did not stop at all on the way. The originally 2 to 3 hours journey was forcefully compressed by Ningyu to 1.5 hours. I'm finally here. Looking at the huge city not far ahead, Ningyu let out a long sigh, revealing a relieved expression. The earlier he returned to Giant Shield City, the earlier he could do many things. How could it not be relaxed? However, Ningyu was very clear that he was pressed for time. He had to arrange everything as soon as possible and then head for the Alchemy Union. The reason why the human devil was so anxious to go to the Alchemy Union was because he wanted to find a way to suppress the energy seal in his body. Ningyu more or less understood the energy seal. He did not want the human devil to mess around. As he pondered, Ningyu's footsteps did not stop. Very soon, Ningyu arrived at the city gates of Giant Shield City. Stop! The moment Ningyu's foot stepped into Giant Shield City, a cold voice rang out beside his ear. Xie. Slightly startled, Ningyu retracted his right leg without batting an eyelid. Xie's cold reprimand caused Ningyu's mind to become active. Ningyu was not that kind of fledgling who was ignorant of the world affairs. On the contrary, Ningyu had lived 2 lives and had experienced many things. Previously, Xie had been very polite to him. He had even chased after him for medicinal pills and listened to everything he said. Since Xie dared to use this kind of tone to speak to him now, it meant that the chronic illness in Xie's body had already been resolved. As expected, thinking of this, Ningyu's gaze shifted towards Xie, who was not far away. Ningyu's heart skipped a beat as soon as he saw it. Although he had guessed that the chronic illness in Xie's body might have been resolved, when he really saw that Xie was safe and sound, Ningyu was still very shocked. Where's your friend? Xie's gaze was behind Ningyu, and he used his perception to explore the surroundings. After a while, Xie retracted his perception. Staring at Ningyu, Xie asked, "Why didn't he come back with you?" Although Xie and Guoliang had defected to Zhou Shun, they were not stupid. When Ning Lu had returned, he had brought with him several peak sky supreme martialists, such as Gao Jingde and Zhang Yi. They could not understand the truth from Ning Lu, but they knew what had happened at the entrance of the St. Grade Yuan crystal mine from Gaozhongde and the others, especially when they learned that Ningyu had been taken away by a Saint Realm Martialist. Xie and Guo Liang started to feel conflicted. In the end, they should completely defer to Zhou Shun and the Jin family. They should feign ignorance and wait for Ningyu and that saint to return before making a decision. After some consideration, Xie and Guo Liang decided to wait for Ningyu to return first. Now that Ningyu had returned to Giant Shield City alone, Xie would definitely ask him about it. We separated on the way. Xie's nervous expression allowed Ningyu to roughly guess the problem. However, there was no need for Ningyu to lie to Xie. So what if he told him that the demon wasn't here, in the storage ring, and helping the white-haired elder, and even Zhang Chong could come out and sweep the entire Giant Shield City? If he was not worried about the safety of Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor, Ningyu would have let Zhang Chong out long ago. Why would he waste time talking nonsense with Xie here? Phew. Hearing Ningyu's reply, Xie heaved a sigh of relief. The next moment, Xie's expression became extremely sinister. He said to Ningyu coldly, "Now you have two choices. 1. Stay here obediently for half an hour. After half an hour, someone will naturally come to deal with you. 2. Die." At this moment, Xie completely exploded. Previously, when Ningyu had something on him, Xie had no choice but to listen to Ningyu's orders. Now that the opportunity was right in front of him, Xie had to get back at him no matter what. Moreover, the Saint of the Jin family hidden in the void did not intervene, which meant that the Saint of the Jin family had tacitly approved of his behavior. In a state of anger, Xie completely released his half-sage aura and pressed down on Ningyu. He wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to completely crush Ningyu. Chapter 1767. Half-Step Saints Aura Pressure. Ningyu didn't take Xie's aura pressure to heart. With his current mid-sky supreme cultivation, he didn't feel any pressure from a half-step saint. After reaching the middle phase Heavenly Sovereign Realm, Ningyu's soul force had also reached the initial phase 9th grade Sovereign Realm. His perception and awareness had also improved. Even if Xie were to fight Ningyu now, he wouldn't be able to defeat Ningyu. Seeing Ningyu standing there without any resistance, Xie's brows couldn't help but furrow. What's going on? Could it be that Ningyu is pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? Is the human demon that claims to exterminate everything hiding in his body? It was understandable for Xie to have such thoughts. After all, he didn't believe that a mid-sky supreme could resist his aura pressure. If someone said such words in front of him, he would probably give that person a slap to wake them up. No, he's trying to resist my aura pressure with his own strength. Soon enough, Xie realized what the problem was. Ningyu wasn't trying to rely on external forces to resist his aura pressure. Instead, he was trying to rely on his own strength to resist his aura pressure. Xie was furious and shocked when he realized this. He was furious that Ningyu was looking down on him and wanted to rely on his own strength to resist his aura pressure. He was shocked that Ningyu didn't seem to be panicking at all. Ningyu's calmness had far surpassed any cultivator of the same generation. Even some of the older generation couldn't be so calm. "I want to see what you're capable of." Xie clenched his fists and stared at Ningyu. Although he didn't believe that Ningyu could resist his aura pressure on the surface, Xie started to have doubts in his heart. The more Xie interacted with Ningyu, the more he could feel how terrifying Ningyu was. The first time he met Ningyu's cultivation was extremely low. He hadn't even reached the Earth Sovereign Realm. How long had it been? Ningyu had actually reached the mid-stage Heavenly Supreme Realm. At this rate, it wouldn't take long for Ningyu to break through to the half-step Saint Realm. Xie didn't doubt Ningyu's combat strength in the slightest. He believed that so long as Ningyu advanced to the half-saint realm, then Ningyu would definitely be able to instantly kill him. Therefore, Xie wanted to know if Ningyu could resist the pressure of his half-saint aura. The pressure of a half-step saint's aura was getting closer and closer to Ningyu. As for Ningyu, he was still standing in the same place without any change in his expression. Chi. However, this situation did not last long. In practically an instant, Xieze's half-saint aura had arrived before Ningyu. The terrifying aura collided with Ningyu's aura, causing sizzling sounds to resound. This old fox, Xieze, is really strong. As soon as the two auras collided, Ningyu discovered how powerful Xieze was. Although Xieze's cultivation was at the half-saint realm, his aura was infinitely close to the saint realm. In other words, as long as Xieze's vitality could reach the saint realm, then he would have a high chance of advancing to the saint realm. Of course, it was easier said than done. Otherwise, with the 100 Flowers Palace's foundation, Xieze would have advanced to the saint realm a long time ago. If I rely on my own aura, something might happen. I have to make sure that it's foolproof. After thinking about it, Ningyu decided to use Zhang Chong's aura. However, even if he decided to use Zhang Chong's aura, Ningyu still had to be careful. There was no other reason. Just now, when Xieze displayed the aura of the half-saint realm, Ningyu noticed that the void around Xieze was trembling a little. Although the trembling was weak, Ningyu had to be cautious. By now, Ningyu could basically conclude that Xieze was just sent out as cannon fodder. There must be someone behind him. As for whether there was one or two martial artists hidden in the void and what their cultivation was, Ningyu had no idea. Without knowing anything, he naturally couldn't expose an Haoping and a white-haired old man who were at the late Saint Realm. Boom! Zhang Chong didn't dare to disobey Ningyu's orders. Since Ningyu asked him to display his aura, he could only display his aura honestly. Moreover, he only displayed the aura of the early Saint Realm according to Ningyu's request. Even so, the result of the aura of the early Saint Realm against Xieze's aura of the half-Saint Realm could be imagined. Boom! A huge rumbling sound rang out. Then, the two auras merged into one and rushed towards Xieze. Damn it! The sudden change was obviously beyond Xieze's expectations. His expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly retreated. Puff! It was obviously too late for Xieze to retreat at this time. The combined aura instantly arrived in front of Xieze and fiercely bombarded his chest under Xieze's horrified gaze. The pain from his chest made Xieze's throat taste sweet, and he directly spat out a large mouthful of dark red blood. Xieze's face became extremely pale as he spat out the blood. Obviously, Xieze's injuries were not light. Who the hell are you? Hurry up and come out. Xieze struggled to get up from the ground and stared at Ningyu. He said fiercely, hiding behind Ningyu to attack, "What kind of hero are you?" Hiss! Before Xieze could finish his words, he hastily shut his mouth and sucked in a breath of cold air. Due to the violent roar, Xieze felt a heart-wrenching pain in his chest. Do you know how many people are hiding in the void? Ningyu ignored Xieze's roar. At this time, he began to communicate with Zhang Chong in the storage ring. Zhang Chong was the powerhouse of the Zhang family responsible for protecting Zhang Kejuan, and his level of concealment was very high. Just now, he asked him to attack was also to find out how many people were hiding in the void. Only one, Zhang Chong said cautiously, and his cultivation is at the early stage of the Sage Realm. Early stage of the Sage Realm? And there is only one? Ningyu was a little stunned, and even suspected that Zhang Chong's detection was wrong. To be on the safe side, Ningyu decided to let Zhang Chong investigate again. After all, Ningyu's original intention was to capture all the martial artists in the void, and he did not want any mistakes. Oh no! Just as Ningyu was about to let Zhang Chong investigate again, his expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly retreated. Rumble! Ningyu only took a few steps back, and the ground where he originally stood suddenly caved in. The huge pit made Ningyu's face extremely gloomy. Fortunately, he was already prepared, and he was highly focused. Otherwise, just this huge crater alone would be enough to make him suffer a lot. Zhang Chong, I give you 3 minutes to take down that martial artist who only dares to hide in the void. Otherwise, come and see me with your head. Ningyu's expression was cold, and even a little sinister. Originally, Ningyu's idea was to capture Xieze first, then slowly interrogate him, and wait until he understood the situation in Giant Shield City before making his move. Chapter 1768. Swoosh. Hearing Ning Yu's words, Zhang Chong did not dare to hesitate and immediately rushed out of the storage ring. Since Zhang Chong had extremely high attainments in concealment, as soon as he came out of the storage ring, he found a saint of the Jin family hidden in the void. After discovering the saint of the Jin family, Zhang Chong directly integrated into the void and fought with the saint of the Jin family. Ning Yu only gave Zhang Chong 3 minutes. It was still a little difficult for Zhang Chong to capture an early-stage saint in 3 minutes. Swoosh. Since he had handed the saint of the Jin family to Zhang Chong, Ning Yu did not care about it anymore. His figure flashed, and Ning Yu rushed towards Xieze. Damn it! Looking at Ning Yu approaching him, Xieze cursed in his heart. He immediately turned around and rushed toward the giant shield city. Xieze had been seriously injured in the impact of the aura just now. Xieze's cultivation had reached the semi-sage level, while Ning Yu was only at the middle stage Sky Supreme. But in the case of injury, Xieze could not guarantee that he could defeat Ning Yu. In other words, Xieze did not dare to take the risk. He was afraid that Ning Yu still had a backup plan. There was only one thought in Xieze's mind, which was to return to the city lord's mansion as soon as possible, find Zhou Shun and Guo Liang, and let them deal with Ning Yu. As for himself, he would look for a chance to escape. However, dreams were plentiful, but reality was harsh. How could Ning Yu let such a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity slip through his fingers? Under Ning Yu's all-out attack, Xieze was only able to run a dozen meters before Ning Yu caught up with him. It's hard to say who will win and who will lose. Since there was no way out, Xieze might as well fight to the death. Along with the cold words coming out of his mouth, Xieze clenched his fists. 2 fists with violent primordial chi blasted toward Ning Yu one after the other. The first fist blasted toward Ning Yu's head. The second fist blasted toward Ning Yu's heart. 2 simultaneous attacks. You're about to die, yet you still want to resist. In the face of Xieze's resistance, Ning Yu's eyes revealed a trace of ruthlessness. In the beginning, Ning Yu had wanted to spare Xieze's life. But now, Ning Yu had changed his focus and decided to kill Xieze. In some things, being kind to your enemy is being cruel to yourself. This was also the reason why Ning Yu refused to let his enemies go. Kill. In short, if you want to kill me, then be prepared to be killed by me. Cut the heavens. With a flick of his wrist, Ning Yu took out the black dragon sword and swung it repeatedly. Voila! In an instant, 2 sword lights flashed out and attacked Xieze's palms. Not good. Xieze panicked when he saw the 2 sword lights flying towards him. In his panic, Xieze immediately withdrew his fist and wanted to retreat. However, it was too late for Xieze to retreat now. He withdrew his right palm, but his left hand was exposed to the attack range of the sword ray. Gotcha! The next moment, a clear sound accompanied by a pig-like shriek rang out near the giant shield city gate tower. I surrender! I surrender! With his left arm chopped off, Xieze's already weak body became even weaker. In this desperate situation, Xieze hurriedly raised his right hand and chose to surrender. What exactly happened in Giant Shield City? Tell me the truth. Ning Yu jumped to Xieze's side and placed the black dragon sword on Xieze's neck. He said coldly, "If you dare to lie to me, you should know the consequences. I was forced. It was all Zhou Shun who forced me. This has nothing to do with me." With the black dragon sword on his neck, Xieze showed an extremely panicked expression and hurriedly explained, "I can bring you to Zhou Shun. As long as you can control Zhou Shun, the crisis in Giant Shield City will naturally be resolved." Zhou Shun? Ning Yu frowned slightly. Zhou Shun is Elder Tianji's disciple. Right now, Giant Shield City is in his hands. Xieze hurriedly said, "All your friends are in the main hall of the city lord residence. Zhou Shun sent me and the Jin family's saint to block you. His goal is to prevent you from appearing in the main hall." Elder Tianji, prevent me from appearing in the main hall? Hearing Xieze's explanation, Ning Yu was even more puzzled. He knew of Elder Tianji, but he did not know much about his disciple, Ning Yu. Moreover, Although he did not know what Elder Tianji's cultivation level was, Ningyu knew that Elder Tianji was definitely not a saint. Since Elder Tianji was not a saint, then his disciple's cultivation level would naturally not be high. His cultivation level was not high, but he could control Giant Shield City. Clearly, there was someone behind Zhou Shun. Seeing Ningyu's puzzled expression, Xieze secretly wiped his sweat. His tense nerves relaxed a little. As long as Ningyu did not kill him, everything would be fine. Zhou Shun would definitely know about the earth-shattering battle that had taken place here. Xieze was very clear about his position. Delay. As long as he could delay until Zhou Shun arrived with Guoliang, there was a high chance that he would survive. How many saints have come from a Jin family? Ningyu did not care about what Xieze was thinking. He continued to ask. According to Ningyu's previous knowledge, among the 3 branches of the Jin family in the Thousand Leaves Empire, the highest cultivation level was only a Sky Supreme. There was not even a half-saint. Now that an early-stage saint had suddenly appeared, how could Ningyu not be shocked? I'm not sure exactly how many have come. I only know that only one early-stage saint has come in contact with us in the past few days. As Xieze spoke, he carefully paid attention to the changes in Ningyu's expression. Once Ningyu revealed any killing intent, Xieze would immediately escape. Even if there was a black dragon sword on his neck, Xieze would not hesitate. Could it be that the Jin family can also get in touch with high-level planes? Ningyu frowned. He vaguely felt that things had become complicated. In the Sky Demon region, the Jin family was not particularly powerful. There was not even a half-saint in the family. Now, that even the Jin family had a saint-level expert, didn't that mean that other families might also have a large number of saints? My cultivation is only at the middle stage of Sky Supreme. It seems that I have to speed up my cultivation. Ningyu secretly made up his mind to immediately go to the Alchemy Union as soon as he settled the matter in the Giant Shield City. It was said that the city where the Alchemy Union was located had a few holy cultivation grounds. Cultivating there would be twice the results with half the effort. As the enemy's cultivation increased, Ningyu's sense of danger became stronger and stronger. Die. As Ningyu was thinking, he became a little distracted. Seeing that Ningyu was distracted, Xieze felt that his chance had come. Just as Ningyu was distracted, Xieze's right fist hit the handle of the Black Dragon Sword. The Black Dragon Sword was blown away from Ningyu's hand. Ha ha ha, still not dead yet. Xieze couldn't help but laugh wildly as he separated the Black Dragon Sword from Ningyu's hand. This was because Xieze felt that Ningyu would definitely die. Chapter 1769. I gave you face, but you don't want it. Before Xieze's fist could hit Ningyu, Ningyu snorted and raised his right leg to kick Xieze's fist. The fist met the kick. The result was obvious. Crack! With a crisp sound, Xieze was sent flying backward. Xieze's confidence and hope were sent flying along with him. Xieze would never have thought that Ningyu would set him up. Xieze didn't understand. If Ningyu wanted to kill him, he would have done it long ago. Why did he wait until now? Die! Xieze might never be able to figure out the answer to this question. Controlling the Black Dragon Sword, Ningyu's figure flashed and stabbed Xieze's heart. With his heart pierced, Xieze died on the spot without any struggle. Swish! Although Xieze was dead, his Yuan spirit rushed out of his body, trying to survive. Go in. Ningyu had even killed Xieze, so how could he let his primordial spirit escape? With a thought, Ningyu took out the 10,000 spirit sacred flag and stored Xieze's Yuan spirit inside. Ningyu kept Xieze's Yuan spirit so that his Yuan spirit battle body could devour it. The Yuan spirit battle body's cultivation was at the peak of the 9th grade Earth Supreme level. His body was in Qianhao's, and his left arm was the arm of a sage. As long as his Yuan spirit battle body devoured a few powerful Yuan spirits, his cultivation would break through to the Sky Supreme level. The Yuan spirit battle body's power was not only reflected in his cultivation, but also in his control over his Yuan spirit. Once his Yuan spirit battle body broke through to the Sky Supreme level, he could easily defeat the Yuan spirit of an initial stage sage. Ningyu's current cultivation was at the mid-sky supreme level. Normally, he could only defeat or kill a half-saint. But if he joined forces with a Sky Supreme, the Yuan Spirit battle body would deal with the Yuan Spirit, while Ningyu would deal with the physical body. In that case, their combined combat power could be compared to that of an initial stage sage. This was also the reason why Ningyu kept Xie Zai's Yuan Spirit. Whoosh! Just as Ningyu kept Xie Zai's primordial spirit into the Thousand Ghosts sacred flag, Zhang Chong flew over with the Jin Clan saint. Bang! After throwing the saint of the Jin Clan in front of Ningyu, Zhang Chong said, "I brought him here." "Very good. Seal all of his meridians and bring him to the main hall of the City Lord Mansion." Ningyu nodded at Zhang Chong, then immediately moved and flew towards the main hall of the City Lord's Mansion. Kacha, City Lord Residence, Main Hall. First place. Zhou Shen's expression became extremely hideous. From the moment Xie Zai was killed, Zhou Shen already knew. The reason why Zhou Shen did not leave the main hall was partly because he believed in the strength of the Jin Clan sage. On the other hand, the agreement he had with the Elder of Heavenly Secrets only had 10 minutes left. After 10 minutes, according to the agreement, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets would teach him the divination art. Under such circumstances, Zhou Shen naturally chose to take a gamble. "Guoliang, go stand guard outside the City Lord's Mansion." He slapped the chair beneath him, shattering it into pieces. Zhou Shen suddenly stood up and said coldly, "No matter what, don't let Ningyu enter the City Lord's Mansion. Otherwise, I'll see you with your head." "Understood." Guoliang's face was filled with reluctance, but he still nodded and turned to leave the main hall. "Ha ha ha!" Seeing that Guoliang had left the main hall, the Dark Emperor threw his head back and laughed. He said to Zhou Shen, "When Ningyu comes, you'll be waiting to die." Noisy. Zhou Shen raised his right hand and fanned out. Rumble. A huge gust of wind quickly blasted in the direction of the Dark Emperor. Fortunately, the Dark Emperor dodged in time. Otherwise, Zhou Shen's attack would be enough to make the Dark Emperor suffer. Zhou Shen's cultivation might be a few levels lower than the Dark Emperor's. However, the Dark Emperor could only dodge Zhou Shen's attack. The reason for this situation was that the entire main hall of the City Lord's Mansion had been set up into a huge formation by an expert. Although Zhou Shen's cultivation was not high, he controlled this huge formation. As long as he willed it, everyone in the main hall would suffer. The reason why Zhou Shen did not kill the Dark Emperor and the others was because of his agreement with Old Man Heaven's Secret. Old Man Heaven's Secret had said that everyone related to Ningyu could not die. Even if one of them died, he would not impart the Heaven's Secret art to Zhou Shen. Under such circumstances, how would Zhou Shen dare to make a move? Buzz! Buzz! Just as Zhou Shen was about to attack the Dark Emperor for a second time, a crystal ball on his body suddenly let out a buzzing sound. When he heard this sound, Zhou Shen's expression changed drastically as he hurriedly took out the crystal ball. Sticking the crystal ball to his ear and listening, Zhou Shen's heart sank to the bottom. How is this possible? How could this be? The information transmitted from the crystal ball caused Zhou Shen's pupils to constrict, and he looked as though he had aged more than 10 years. This information was simply too shocking for Zhou Shen. The crystal ball was the medium through which Zhou Shen got in touch with the Jin family. The Jin family had sent their sage to Giant Shield City to support Zhou Shen with only one goal: to obtain the Heaven's Secret art. But now, not only did they not obtain the Heaven's Secret art, even the sage they sent was killed. Naturally, this hatred would be vented on Zhou Shen. The Jin family sage is being controlled. Bring Old Man Heaven Secret into the main hall and use the formation to defend it. You must hold them off for 3 hours. Recalling the information he had received from the crystal ball, Zhou Shen felt as though all his energy had been sucked out and he was flustered. No, I have to activate the entire formation immediately and defend it with my life. Taking a deep breath, Zhou Shen contacted Guoliang and had him bring Old Man Heaven's Secret over. At the same time, he took out the item given to him by the Jin family and activated the entire formation. even though Zhou Shan was in charge of the formation, looking like he was the only one who could do it. However, it could not be denied that the formation had not been fully activated. Only a portion of it had been activated. The reason why Zhou Shan did not fully activate the formation was because he felt that things were in the bag. It was fine as long as it could trap Ningyu's friends. From the looks of it, he had to fully activate the formation. After all, even the Jin family sage was being controlled. This meant that Ningyu must have brought a sage with him. Rumble. With a loud rumble, the formation in the main hall was completely activated by Zhou Shan. This formation can even stop a mid-stage sage. Let's see what you can do to me. After activating the formation, Zhou Shan moved to the exit of the main hall. He looked into the distance and said coldly, "Everyone says that I'm not as good as you. Today, let's determine the winner." Bang! As soon as Zhou Shan's cold words fell, a figure dashed in front of him. The sound of a body hitting the wall could be heard. Zhou Shan looked at the familiar figure on the ground in front of him, and his expression became extremely ferocious. Guoliang. The martial artist on the ground was none other than Guoliang. Russell. Zhou Shan looked up. Chapter 1770. Looking at the figure at the front, Zhou Shan could not help but clench his fists tightly. His expression became extremely ferocious. Although he had never seen Ningyu before, Zhou Shan knew that the skinny cultivator in front of him was Ningyu. Zhou Shan's gaze did not linger on Ningyu for too long. Soon, it shifted to the cultivator beside Ningyu. What he saw caused Zhou Shan's heart to sink to the bottom of the valley. Mid-stage sage. Zhang Chong did not hide his aura, so Zhou Shan could tell that he was a mid-stage sage. As for the Jin family sage that Zhang Chong was dragging, Zhou Shan did not pay attention to him. Calm down. The experts from the Jin family said that the array can withstand the impact of a mid-stage sage. Zhou Shan tried his best to calm himself down. He was standing at the entrance of the hall. With the hall behind him and the array, Zhou Shan was confident that he could withstand the mid-stage sage. "Save me." At this moment, Guoliang crawled up from the ground with difficulty and shouted at Zhou Shan, "Pull me into the hall." Guoliang roared as he slowly crawled towards the hall. The distance between them became the most insurmountable distance for Guoliang. Zhou Shan was completely unmoved by Guoliang's cry for help. At this moment, Zhou Shan's attention was completely on Ningyu and Zhang Chong. If the enemy doesn't move, I won't move. That was Zhou Shan's strategy. For the long-term goal, Zhou Shan needed to delay for 3 hours. For the short-term goal, Zhou Shan only needed to delay for 10 minutes. That was because after 10 minutes, Old Man Tianji would teach him the divination art. The reason why he resisted Old Man Tianji and chose to cooperate with the Jin family was to obtain the divination art. "Don't even think about scheming against me." Zhou Shan's expression was cold. He made up his mind to leave immediately after obtaining the divination art. At that time, he could make Ningyu and the rest fight with the Jin family. As the saying went, when the sandpiper and clam fight, the fisherman benefits. Stop. Although Zhou Shan had his own plans, his attention did not leave Ningyu and Zhang Chong. Seeing that Ningyu was about to move closer to the hall, Zhou Shan immediately said coldly, "If you dare to take another step forward, I guarantee that I will kill everyone in the hall." As he spoke, Zhou Shan turned slightly to the side, exposing the entire hall to Ningyu. Whoosh! Ningyu's gaze only moved slightly around the great hall before he quickly retracted it and rested on Zhou Shan. "What do you want?" As he already knew about the situation in the hall through Xieze, Ningyu was not too shocked when he saw the Dark Emperor and the others trapped in the hall. Instead, he said calmly, "Tell me your conditions." "My condition?" Zhou Shan hadn't expected Ningyu to be so calm. His lips curled up into a smirk as he said coldly, "Aren't you awesome?" Cripple his own cultivation, then enter the main hall. Bullshit. When the Dark Emperor heard Zhou Shan's hooligan-like words, he immediately shouted, "If you dare to kill us, you would have done it a long time ago. Why wait until now? I want to see if you have the courage to kill us. Do you have guts? I'll start with you and let you see if I have the courage or not." Zhou Shan was agitated by the Dark Emperor to the point of becoming irritable. His originally calm face became extremely sinister. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Zhou Shun's figure shot out. His target was the Dark Emperor. The Dark Emperor's expression did not change as he faced Zhou Shun, who was charging at him. He had no intention of retreating. When Zhou Shun was 3 meters away from the Dark Emperor said indifferently, "You have to think this through. If you kill me, you can forget about obtaining the divination art forever." Whoosh! The Dark Emperor's words seemed to contain terrifying power, causing Zhou Shun to stop in midair. "You're threatening me." Clenching his fists, Zhou Shun furiously glared at the Dark Emperor. "Everyone who threatens me will not have a good ending. If you think I'm threatening you, then so be it." The Dark Emperor shrugged and leaned lazily against the chair, looking like he didn't care at all. Crack! The Dark Emperor's actions made Zhou Shun's nose turn crooked. But for the divination art, Zhou Shun decided to let the Dark Emperor off. "I'll deal with you later." Glaring at the Dark Emperor, Zhou Shun returned to the entrance of the hall and stretched out a finger towards Ningyu. "There's a limit to my patience. 10 minutes. I'll give you 10 minutes to consider. You have to make a decision in 10 minutes. Do you think that I'm a fool?" Ningyu pointed at his own nose as he stared at Zhou Shun, as if he was looking at a fool, and said in disdain, "You're not even a heavenly sovereign, and I have a middle-phase Saint Realm cultivator on my side. Do you think that you can escape?" "Forget it. I don't want to talk nonsense with you." Zhang Chong. Shrugging, Ningyu waved his hand at Zhang Chong and said, "Go break open the formation and bring Zhou Shun here." Ningyu was not a fool. He already knew about Zhou Shun's plan from Sieze. The reason why Ningyu did not let Zhang Chong rush to the main hall immediately was because he was worried that the Jin clan's saint was hiding in the surroundings. After all, there was a seal in the mind of the early-stage sage from the Jin family. Once his memories were forcefully devoured, he would self-destruct. The words of the Dark Emperor just now allowed Ningyu to roughly determine the situation in front of him. Zhou Shun didn't dare to kill the Dark Emperor and the others. Since that was the case, Ningyu no longer stood by and watched. He ordered Zhang Chong to break the array and capture Zhou Shun alive. Although the white-haired old man and Haoping, the 2 late-stage sage realm martial artists, as well as the cold-looking man, the late-stage sage realm martial artist, were in the storage ring, Ningyu was worried that the Jin family would send even more powerful martial artists. More martial artists would come over. To be on the safe side, Ningyu immediately asked Zhang Chong to take action as soon as he got some information from the Dark Emperor. After all, Zhang Chong's cultivation was at the mid-stage sage realm. As soon as he took action, he immediately unleashed powerful spells that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. All kinds of spells finally gathered in one place and fiercely bombarded the entrance of the main hall, where Zhou Shun was. Rumble. An earth-shattering sound rang out. Although Zhang Chong's target was the entrance of the main hall, the entire main hall was uprooted. Zhang Chong's grasp of strength was very precise. His attack only tore open the main hall and did not affect the surrounding buildings. Ha ha ha! After Zhang Chong's first attack, Zhou Shun's unscrupulous voice resounded in this area. Zhou Shun had a reason to be excited and unscrupulous, because Zhang Chong's all-out attack did not break the formation. Even the foundation of the formation was not shaken. Zhou Shun looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. Then, he hooked his finger at Ningyu and said, "I'm standing here. Come over if you have the ability." Chapter 1771. Creak. As soon as Zhou Shun's arrogant words fell, the door of the house he was staring at was slowly pushed open. A white-bearded old man walked out of the house. Elder Tianji. The white-bearded old man was none other than the old fart that Zhou Shun had mentioned, Elder Tianji. As soon as Elder Tianji walked out of the house, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. In the Sky Demon region, even in the Immortal Spirit region, Elder Tianji's name was very famous. Before meeting Elder Tianji, Ningyu had thought that Elder Tianji was very mysterious and powerful. But now, Ningyu realized that Elder Tianji looked very kind. As for his cultivation, Ningyu could not tell what Elder Tianji's cultivation was. Is Elder Tianji not a cultivator? As soon as this thought appeared in his mind, Ningyu tossed it aside. After all, Elder Tianji was an honored guest of countless powerful forces. It was very difficult for many to meet him, so he must not be weak. Zhang Chong, can you tell what Elder Tianji's cultivation is? Ningyu asked Zhang Chong in a low voice. I can't tell. Zhang Chong shook his head. At first glance, Elder Tianji is not a cultivator. But if you look closely, you will realize that Elder Tianji is unfathomable. Unfathomable? Frowning, Ningyu secretly became cautious. If the Elder of Heavenly Secrets could calculate, could it be that all of this was within his grasp? If that was the case, then Elder Tianji was too scary. So scary that Ningyu did not want to have anything to do with him. Old bastard, this formation can even block a warrior at the intermediate stage of the Sage Realm. How can Ningyu break in? Seeing Elder Tianji come out, Zhou Shun said proudly, You always say that I'm not as good as Ningyu. Now, I'll show you who is the real genius. You are a genius. Elder Tianji moved and stopped a few steps away from Zhou Shun. You are indeed a genius to be able to reach the Earth's Supreme Realm at your age. Cut the crap. I don't need you to tell me that I'm a genius. Zhou Shun said viciously. You only need to teach me the divination art. Everything else has nothing to do with you. What's the hurry? Although you are a genius, Ningyu is a genius among geniuses. Lord Tianji rolled his eyes. Ningyu is younger than you, but his cultivation has already reached the mid-heavenly supreme realm. If I remember correctly, when you were the same age as Ningyu, your cultivation should have only been at the mortal sovereign realm, right? Zhou Shun's complexion turned ashen at the Elder of Heavenly Secrets' words. What he hated the most was the Elder of Heavenly Secrets comparing him to Ningyu. No matter how he looked at it, he had won. It was impossible for Ningyu to break into the array in the remaining time. Moreover, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets still said that Ningyu had left. How could he not be angry? How could he not be angry? In his rage, Zhou Shun said coldly, I don't want to argue with you. In any case, I just want to say one thing for you. Do you intend to impart the divination art to me? Don't worry. I will definitely fulfill my promise. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets' expression was calm and did not change in the slightest. After saying this, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets immediately turned around and walked toward Ningyu. As he watched the Elder of Heavenly Secrets walk toward him, Ningyu focused his mind. If he made the slightest mistake, he would immediately release an Halping and the white-haired Elder from his spatial ring. A moment later, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets stopped in front of Ningyu and said, I've wanted to see you for a long time. I didn't think it would take so long. Ningyu smiled at the Elder of Heavenly Secrets, but did not say anything. I want to take you as my disciple. What do you think? Ningyu did not say anything. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets did not care at all. Instead, he said something that left Ningyu dumbfounded. He wanted to take Ningyu as his disciple. Ningyu was slightly taken aback by the Elder of Heavenly Secrets' words. His expression was a little dumbfounded. What was going on? Ningyu was still on his guard against the Elder of Heavenly Secrets. He was worried that the Elder of Heavenly Secrets and Zhou Shun would collude against him. Who would have thought that the Elder of Heavenly Secrets would want to take him as his disciple? This change was simply too great. It was so great that Ningyu was extremely dumbfounded. I know this might be a little abrupt, but the immortal spirit realm will be in turmoil for a period of time. I don't want the art of heavenly secrets to be lost, so I want to find a disciple to teach him the art of heavenly secrets. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets' mouth moved, but no sound came out. Lip reading. It was obvious that the Elder of Heavenly Secrets did not want Zhou Shun to hear this. He was afraid that Zhou Shun would be driven to desperate action. After a brief moment of shock, Ningyu completely calmed down. This was because Ningyu discovered a terrifying seal on the Elder of Heavenly Secrets. The seal on the Elder of Heavenly Secrets was comparable to the energy seal in the body of the human demon. This discovery slightly alleviated the worry in Ningyu's heart. Since there was a seal on the Elder of Heavenly Secrets, it meant that there was an 80% chance that what the Elder of Heavenly Secrets said was true. Of course, Ningyu could not completely believe the elder of heavenly secrets. He turned slightly and also mouthed, "There's no hurry. Let's save my friend first." Within the array, the safety of the Dark Emperor, Ning Lu, and the rest were still under threat. Ningyu did not want to waste time. This matter needs to be considered at length. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets said that array is an expert from the Jin clan. At this point, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets paused for a moment and pointed to the Jin clan sage beside Ningyu. It was set up by his brother. Its defensive power is shocking and can withstand the attack of a late-stage sage. If that's the case, doesn't it mean that only martial artists at the peak of the sage realm can break the formation? Ningyu was stunned and said, "Yes, you can say that. Therefore, it will be very difficult to break through the array with the strength of your side." The Elder of Heavenly Secrets nodded. "Senior, what do you think we should do now?" Ningyu forced himself to calm down. "Wait." The Elder of Heavenly Secrets extended a finger. "When the time is right, I will personally teach Zhou Shun, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets. That will be the best opportunity. That's all I can do." Taking a deep breath, Ningyu tried his best to calm himself down and make himself look calmer. The more critical the moment, the more he could not panic. However, Ningyu could not place all his hopes on the Elder of Heavenly Secrets. He waited quietly as he began to contact an Halping and a white-haired elder in his storage ring. In fact, Ningyu even contacted the little Kirin. The reason why he contacted the little Kirin was not because Ningyu wanted the little Kirin to help, but because he wanted the little Kirin to control the Grim Man. To be more precise, he wanted the little Kirin to control the Grim Man's self-destruction. At this critical moment, Ningyu decided to abandon the Grim Man. As long as he knew that the Elder of Heavenly Secrets was working together with Zhou Shun, he would immediately use the Grim Man's self-destruction to gain the upper hand. Although Ningyu had this plan, he had to admit that even with the help of the little Kirin, he would not be able to make the Grim Man self-destruct. It was extremely difficult to make a late-stage sage explode. One had to realize that even the human demon had not been able to make Smiling Tiger self-destruct. Instead, he had used a fake self-destruction to deceive Lu Chuanji. Chapter 1772. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. Since Elder Tianji said he had a way to deal with Zhou Shun, Ningyu didn't say anything else and waited quietly for that moment to come. "You want to trick me?" Seeing Ningyu and Elder Tianji secretly communicating, Zhou Shun's face darkened, and he said fiercely, "That depends on whether you have the ability or not." No matter how he looked at it, Zhou Shun had the absolute advantage. Although Ningyu had Zhang Chong, a mid-stage sage, Zhou Shun had the array behind him and could completely block the attack of a mid-stage sage. Zhou Shun wasn't afraid of dragging things out. After all, there were only 3 minutes left until the agreed time. After 3 minutes, Elder Tianji would teach him the divination art. As long as he mastered the divination art, he could immediately tear the void and leave. By then, even if Elder Tianji personally took action, he wouldn't be able to find him. After all, he had mastered the divination art and could fight against Elder Tianji and avoid his pursuit. Time was always slipping away at his fingertips. In the blink of an eye, 3 minutes passed. "You've lost." Once the time was up, Zhou Shun licked his lips and said to Elder Tianji, "According to the agreement, you have to teach me the divination art." "Don't worry, Elder Tianji, am a man of my word. I said I would teach you the divination art, so I will." The Elder of Heavenly Secrets had a very calm expression. His feet moved, heading straight for Zhou Shun. It was not too far, but the Elder of Heavenly Secrets had to walk for 3 minutes. "Stop." Seeing that Elder Tianji was about to enter the array, Zhou Shun hurriedly said, "You don't have to come in. Just stand there and teach me the divination art." For some reason, when Zhou Shun's gaze fell on Elder Tianji's face, his heart skipped a beat. Although the expert from the Jin family had left a seal on Elder Tianji, Zhou Shun still wasn't at ease. As the saying went, things that he couldn't control were uncertain. Zhou Shun was worried that there was a problem with the seal on Elder Tianji, so he didn't want to get close to him. "All right." Elder Tianji shrugged at Zhou Shun's cautiousness, expressing his helplessness. Relax your mind. I will transmit the essentials of the divination technique into your mind. In the next moment, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets shook his head. A message flew out from his head and rushed toward Zhou Shun. When Zhou Shun saw the message flying toward him, he gritted his teeth and immediately relaxed his mind. Xiao. The speed of the message was very fast. It reached Zhou Shun in almost an instant. Since Zhou Shun had already opened up his mind, the message directly entered Zhou Shun's mind without any hesitation. This is the divination art? Zhou Shun's mouth was slightly agape as he sensed the profound mantra that suddenly appeared in his mind. He was a little dumbfounded. The art of divination was indeed profound. Even though Zhou Shun's comprehension ability was very strong, he didn't dare say that he had a 100% grasp of the Heaven's Fate art. However, Zhou Shun was not discouraged. Not being able to grasp the art of divination for a day did not mean that it would be impossible for a lifetime. Time is life. Time is money. Zhou Shun didn't have time to waste here. After grasping the chant, his first thought was to leave this place as soon as possible. Soon, Zhou Shun's lips curled into a smile. Leaving was a must, but not now. Zhou Shun's gaze swept across the Dark Emperor and the others before slowly moving to rest on Ningyu. Ningyu, aren't you awesome? I want to see what ability you have to stop me from killing your friend. Ha ha ha. As he spoke, Zhou Shun threw his head back and roared with laughter. Ningyu didn't respond to Zhou Shun. Instead, he stared at the Elder of Heavenly Secrets silently. Sigh. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets sighed softly and said to Zhou Shun, "It's not too late for you to break the formation and let Ningyu's friends out. Not too late. Have you lost your mind?" Zhou Shun's jaw nearly dropped when he heard the Elder of Heavenly Secrets' words. You're still trying to persuade me at a time like this? If this isn't losing your mind, what is? Why don't you let me try? I'm confident in breaking that formation. Right at this moment, the little Qilin in the storage ring suddenly contacted Ningyu. Its deep voice rang in Ningyu's ears. No need. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets should have a backup plan. Ningyu shook his head gently. The little Qilin didn't see the Elder of Heavenly Secrets' actions in the storage ring, but Ningyu saw it clearly. Although the Elder of Heavenly Secrets sighed, his right hand formed a hand seal. This small action was very subtle. It was so subtle that Ningyu almost didn't notice it. Since Ningyu didn't want to help, the little Qilin naturally wouldn't take the initiative to help. Furthermore, the little Qilin was currently injecting energy into the cold-looking man's body in an attempt to make the cold-looking man look like he was about to self-destruct. The task was difficult. The little Qilin didn't want any mistakes. Sigh, I've already given you a chance. It's you who didn't know how to cherish it. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets sighed softly again when he saw that Zhou Shun was still stubborn. He muttered, "Just treat it as if I never had a disciple like you. I don't know how to cherish it. Oh no." Zhou Shun pointed at his own nose. Just as he was about to mock back, his expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly retreated. Swoosh! Swoosh! However, Zhou Shun only thought of retreating now. It was obviously too slow. Two figures rushed out from the crowd behind him. Yun Mu, Talisman Supremacy? Looking at the two familiar figures, Ningyu's mouth was agape. He felt a little shocked. Not only was Ningyu shocked, but all the martial artists in the entire region, including all the martial artists inside and outside the array, revealed astonished gazes. Especially Zhou Shun, he stood on the spot in a daze. He only reacted when Yun Mu and Talisman Supremacy were a meter away from him. He hurriedly raised his hands to block. Zhou Shun was very puzzled. All the martial artists in the hall should have been sealed by that Jin family powerhouse, right? Why did Yun Mu and Talisman Supremacy look like nothing happened? Furthermore, that wasn't the only thing that shocked Zhou Shun. Zhou Shun clearly remembered that Yun Mu and Talisman Supremacy were both mortal sovereigns. How did they advance to the Earth sovereign realm in such a short period of time? And they were even advanced Earth sovereigns. This series of events left Zhou Shun dumbfounded. Boom! Boom! Yin Mu and Talisman Supremacy wouldn't sit still when they saw Zhou Shun being dumbfounded. On the contrary, the two of them attacked decisively. A punch from each of them landed on Zhou Shun's body. Two crisp sounds rang out. Zhou Shun was like a kite with a broken string. His body flew backward in a straight line and crashed heavily into the ground, making intimate contact with it. Rustle. At the same time, in a certain dense forest, an old man suddenly stopped and floated in the air. Someone actually managed to break through my seal. The old man revealed a doubtful expression and muttered, "Could it be that someone else has their eyes on the heaven mystery art?" The old man's face suddenly turned cold. In his view, the heaven mystery art was already in his pocket. Anyone who dared to snatch it from him would be going against him. Without any hesitation, the old man quickly tore through the void and flew away. Chapter 1773. Giant Shield City. City Governor's Office. Crack. The moment Zhou Shun fell to the ground, Yin Mu and the supremacy of Talisman Martial struck at the same time. They each threw a punch at the formation. A crisp sound was heard. Wherever Yin Mu and the supremacy of Talisman Martial's fists passed, the formation would crack. Even Zhang Chong couldn't break this formation. How did the two of them do it? Ningyu was slightly stunned when he saw the crack in the formation. He felt a little puzzled. That's not right. However, Ningyu soon discovered something unusual. To be more precise, he discovered something special about Yin Mu and the supremacy of Talisman Martial. Yin Mu wasn't particularly old. He was only in his 20s, but he gave Ningyu a sense of vicissitudes. It was as though Yin Mu had experienced many things. Could Yin Mu be the reincarnation of some old monster? Suddenly, a thought popped up in Ningyu's mind. As soon as the thought popped up, it was deeply rooted in Ningyu's mind and couldn't be erased. Swoosh! Just as Ningyu was pondering, the Dark Emperor, Ning Lu, and the rest of the people in the formation flew out from the crack and landed on the empty ground in front. Among them, the Dark Emperor grabbed Zhou Shun and threw him in front of Ningyu like a dead dog. What do you plan to do with him? The Dark Emperor pointed at Zhou Shun, who was lying limply on the ground, and asked, "This guy is very arrogant. He's not afraid of anything. I'll handle it. Bring Master Xingyin and the rest to rest first. Try to recover to your peak state as soon as possible." Ningyu waved his hand and gestured for the Dark Emperor and the rest to recuperate. After all, the Dark Emperor and the rest still had seals in their bodies. There was no point in staying. They might as well find a place to remove the seals in their bodies first. Got it. Be careful of Zhou Shun. Don't fall into his trap. The Emperor of the Dark World understood his own situation very well. He did not die and stay behind for nothing. Instead, he gave Ningyu a slight reminder before leaving the area. Swoosh! Very soon, there were only a few people left in the slightly crowded area. Originally, there were only 3 martial artists left in the Grand Array: Yin Mu, Talisman Martial Supremacy, and Ning Lu. The reason why Ningyu had left Ning Lu behind was because Ningyu had his own considerations. No matter what, Ning Lu's main body was a world tree. In such a complicated situation, leaving Ning Lu behind was more useful than leaving a mid-stage saint. Ningyu, isn't your advancement speed a little too fast? After the Dark Emperor left, Ning Lu examined Ningyu and exclaimed, "How long has it been? And you've already reached the middle phase heavenly sovereign realm? Your cultivation is the same as mine." Previously, Ning Lu had boasted that he was the world tree. He had boasted about how fast his advancement speed was in front of Ningyu, saying that he could completely crush Ningyu. Now, Ningyu was trying his best to catch up, and his cultivation had a tendency to crush Ning Lu. This discovery made Ning Lu feel a little unbalanced. Even if you're a freak, you can't be that freak. In such a short period of time, his cultivation had advanced by several levels. Even the reincarnation of an old monster might not be able to do that. That's right, the reincarnation of an old monster. At the mention of the old monster, Ning Lu's gaze instantly shifted to Yin Mu and the Talisman Martial Supremacy. Ning, you could only roughly determine that Yin Mu was the reincarnation of an old monster, but Ning Lu was very clear about it. Ning Lu knew that not only was Yun Mu the reincarnation of an old monster, but even the talisman martial supremacy was the reincarnation of an old monster. It was just that in his previous life, the talisman martial supremacy was far weaker than Yun Mu. Let's not talk about it. The crisis is not over yet. At this moment, Elder Tianji's solemn voice rang in Ning Yu's ears. The array was set up by an expert from the Jin family. Now that there's a gap in the array, it means that the expert from the Jin family will be here soon. We should find a place to hide or leave Giant Shield City temporarily. It's not realistic to leave Giant Shield City. Ning Yu shook his head slowly and asked, Senior, do you know what the cultivation of that expert from the Jin family is? You want to fight him? Elder Tianji smiled helplessly. He stared at Ning Yu and said, Don't joke around. I'll tell you the truth. The cultivation of that Jin family saint is at the peak of the saint realm. Hiss. By the time the Elder of Heavenly Secrets had finished speaking, the entire area had fallen silent. This silence was so frightening that even the sound of breathing could be heard clearly. Not long ago, Lu Chuanji alone was enough to give Ning Yu and the rest a hard time. If Human Demon had not used Smiling Tiger's self-destruction to deceive Lu Chuanji, they would have been dead long ago. How could they have returned to Giant Shield City so smoothly? Now that a terrifying opponent with strength comparable to Lu Chuanji had appeared, how could Ning Yu remain calm? How could he feel safe? Although he was extremely shocked and even a little fearful, Ning Yu's performance was worthy of the word calm. At the very least, under normal circumstances, Ning Yu could not be seen to be panicking at all. The peak of the Saint Realm is not invincible. Ning Yu smiled at Elder Tianji and immediately moved to stand in front of Zhou Shun. Casually glancing at Zhou Shun, Ning Yu said indifferently, Tell me what agreement you have with the Jin family. I can consider, Tui. Before Ning Yu finished speaking, Zhou Shun opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of saliva. He said coldly, What agreement I have with the Jin family has nothing to do with you. Kill me or torture me. Do as you please. Looks like the Dark Emperor was right. You are indeed very arrogant. Ning Yu raised his eyebrows and said, Since you were so stubborn, I can only apologize to you. As he spoke, Ning Yu's figure flashed, and his fist carried violent primordial energy as it smashed toward Zhou Shun. Zhou Shun had never expected that Ning Yu would suddenly attack him. Moreover, Ning Yu had attacked him without holding anything back. Originally, Zhou Shun thought that Ning Yu could only hold back and negotiate with him. But now, Ning Yu actually wanted to kill him with a wave of his hand. At this moment, Zhou Shun panicked. Let me tell you what agreement I have with the Jin family. In a panic, Zhou Shun hurriedly said, In 2 hours, a powerful martial artist from the Jin family will rush over, and that powerful martial artist is at the peak of the Saint Realm. Also, that martial artist at the peak of the Saint Realm left a clone on me. As long as you kill me, that clone will appear and kill you. The clone of a martial artist at the peak of the Saint Realm has to be at least in the late stage of the Saint Realm. Your friend is only a martial artist at the middle stage of the Saint Realm. He has no chance of winning against a martial artist at the late stage of the Saint Realm. As long as you don't kill me, that martial artist clone won't appear and you won't fall into an irreversible situation. In order to save his life, Zhou Shun rambled on. Chapter 1774. Threatening me with a late-stage sage clone? I'm sorry, but I don't buy it. Ning Yu rolled his eyes, indicating that a late-stage sage cultivator could not scare him. At the same time, Ning Yu's hands did not stop. Under Zhou Shun's horrified gaze, his right fist brought with it a violent gust of essence qi and landed on Zhou Shun's head. Bam! A muffled sound was heard. Zhou Shun fell backward once again, landing heavily on the ground. Ning Yu's punch was extremely powerful. Although it did not kill Zhou Shun might not be able to cultivate for the rest of his life after being hit by Ning Yu's punch. To Zhou Shun, not being able to cultivate was even crueler than death. He had gone through so much trouble and even teamed up with the Jin family to obtain the divination art. Now that he had the divination art and was about to leave, who would have thought that two reckless women, Yun Mu and the talisman martial supremacy, would appear? The more Zhou Shen thought about it, the angrier he got. In the end, Zhou Shen roared into the sky and used the last bit of strength in his body to charge at Ningyu. In the process of advancing, Zhou Shen's body swelled up. It seemed like he was going to self-destruct. Heaven's sins can be forgiven, but one's own sins are the hardest to bear. Seeing Zhou Shen's reckless actions, Old Man Tianji sighed softly. Puffed. Just as Old Man Tianji turned his head away, a muffled sound rang out in the area. Buzz. Just as Zhou Shen had said, he had a late-stage sage clone left behind by an expert from the Jin family. However, the late-stage sage clone did not attack Ningyu immediately after it appeared. Instead, it devoured Zhou Shen in the blink of an eye. Where's the divination art? After devouring Zhou Shen, the late-stage sage clone revealed a puzzled expression. What a good plan. The late-stage sage clone was stunned for only a second before returning to normal. Turning around to stare at the old man of heavenly secrets, the late-stage saint clone said coldly, "Old man of heavenly secrets, you should know that since I can leave a seal in your body, I can easily kill you. If you don't want to die so quickly, you'd better hand over the old man of heavenly secrets. You're too old. Even if I teach you the divination technique, you won't be able to grasp it." Elder Tianji shook his head slowly in the face of the late-stage Saint Clone's question and said, "I advise you to leave quickly. Otherwise, the Jin family will fall into eternal damnation because of you." Ha ha ha. The avatar of the late-stage saint seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He raised his head and laughed wildly. Then he changed the topic and said coldly, "Today, I want to see how the Jin family will fall into eternal damnation because of me, Xiao. Xiao." Before the late-stage sage clone could finish his sentence, two figures rushed out of Ningyu's body. The white-haired old man and Haoping. These two martial artists were the white-haired old man and Haoping, who were hiding in the storage ring. The reason why Ningyu chose to attack now was not because he was afraid of the late-stage Saint Clone, but because he had obtained the information he wanted from Ning Lu. Ning Lu was the Tree of World, so his perception was extremely powerful. Ningyu asked Ning Lu to use his perception to detect the surroundings. After confirming that there were no martial artists at the peak of the Sage Realm around, he asked the white-haired old man and Haoping to attack. Although the white-haired old man and Haoping were both late-stage Sage Realm martial artists, the cultivation of the clone they were facing was also at the late-stage Sage Realm. It was impossible for them to lose when it was 2 against 1. But Ningyu didn't want to take the risk. It would be best if he could win without any mistakes. Rumble. The white-haired old man and Haoping received Ningyu's order to take down the avatar of the late-stage Sage Realm within 3 minutes, regardless of whether it was dead or alive. All kinds of terrifying magic arts broke out in midair. The battle didn't last long. In an unknown void, an old man suddenly spat out a large mouthful of blood, and his face became extremely gloomy. Two late-stage Sage Realm martial artists. The old man's face was livid, and he couldn't help but clench his fists. Before leaving Giant Shield City and returning to the Jin family, he had left a clone in Zhou Shen's body. Now that the clone had been severely injured, it meant that all his plans had been disrupted. Damn it! The old man took out a crystal ball, whispered a few words to it, and then suddenly crushed it. Crack! The broken pieces of the crystal ball even cut the old man's palm. Blood flowed down the old man's palm continuously. Drip! Drip! The old man stood on the spot with a conflicted expression. It would take him at least 1.5 hours to reach Giant Shield City, and after 1.5 hours, his clone would definitely be killed. Does the old prophet have a peak-stage Sage Realm martial artist with him? The old man's expression was gloomy. Puffed, puffed, puffed. Just as the old man was hesitating, he suddenly felt something sweet in his throat, and he spat out another 3 mouthfuls of blood. The old man's face darkened after spitting out 3 mouthfuls of blood. His clone was killed. The old man only had 3 clones, and each of them took him several years of effort. Now that one of his clones was killed, it meant that his combat strength would decrease by at least 10%. Furthermore, he would need at least half a month to recover to his peak state. Within that half a month, the old man's strength would not reach the peak sage realm. Let's return first. I left a seal in the old prophet's body anyway. After pondering for a moment, the old man decided to return to the Jin family first. The old man was very confident about the seal in the old prophet's body. Unless he did it himself, even a perfected sage realm martial artist would not be able to remove the seal for the old prophet. As long as the seal was there, the old man would be able to locate the old prophet at any time. I'll let you run around for a few more days. With a cold harumph, the old man turned around and headed in the opposite direction. It could be seen that the old man had just flown a few steps when he spat out another mouthful of blood. This time, the blood that the old man spat out was not red, but black. The old man clenched his fists and his body stayed in the air for a second before disappearing without looking back. At the same time, Giant Shield City in the city governor's mansion. Bang! The white-haired old man and enhauping worked together and blasted the late-stage sage clone down. The sound of the body hitting the ground was so clear and crisp. Whoosh! Seeing that the late-stage sage clone was killed, Ning Yu and even the old prophet heaved a sigh of relief. This was because the moment the late-stage sage clone died, the old prophet suddenly felt enlightened. The old prophet was well-versed in the art of divination, so he could not be more familiar with this feeling. Turning misfortune into fortune. In other words, Elder Tianji had originally been facing a tribulation. However, this tribulation had suddenly disappeared when his late-stage sage clone had died. He's indeed the chosen one. Chapter 1775. Get ready, everyone. We'll leave Giant Shield City in 3 minutes. Although he had killed a late-stage sage clone, Ning Yu didn't let his guard down. If his clone could reach the late-stage sage level, then his real body would at least be at the peak of the sage level. With the white-haired elder and in Halping's current state, they wouldn't even be able to withstand one move from a peak sage level warrior. When they weren't sure how strong the enemy was, it was better to retreat as soon as possible to avoid bringing disaster to Giant Shield City. There's no need. Seeing Ning Yu's serious expression, Elder Tianji waved his hand and said, "Their target is me. As long as I leave Giant Shield City, it will be very safe." That was the case before, but it's not the case anymore. Ning Yu shook his head slowly and said, "No one can pretend that nothing happened when their clone was killed." Ning Yu was very clear about this. Perhaps before he returned to Giant Shield City, the Jin family's main target was Elder Tianji and the art of divination. But now, the white-haired elder and Enhalping were the main targets of the Jin family. His cultivation was only at the mid-stage of Sky Supreme, so the Jin family might ignore him. That's true. Elder Tianji thought about what Ning Yu had said and felt that it made sense. The higher one's cultivation, the more they cared about their reputation. The Jin family had lost a late-stage sage clone. They would find a way to get back at them no matter what. In other words, he was now in the same boat as Ning Yu and the others. At the very least, no one would be able to live in peace before the Jin family was completely destroyed. Where do you plan to go? Elder Tianji asked Ning Yu. To the headquarters of the Alchemy Union. Ning Yu didn't hide anything from Elder Tianji. When Ning Yu and Human Demon parted ways, he wanted to return to Giant Shield City first, and then mobilize the people from Supreme Palace to go to the Jin family of the Qinya Empire. Since the Jin family of the Qinya Empire couldn't go there, he could only go to the Alchemy Union first. I'll go down and prepare first. After that, I'll go to the Alchemy Union with you. After saying that, Elder Tianji led Yun Mu and the Talisman Martial Supremacy straight into the depths of the City Lord Manor. I have a feeling that this old man is hiding something from us. After Elder Tianji left, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu walked over with large strides. Among them, the Dark Emperor curled his lips and said, "What old man of heavenly secrets? I think he's just a wooden club completely useless. Ning Lu said, "The Elder of Heavenly Secrets has an extremely terrifying energy in his body. If that energy in his body completely erupts, you won't even know how you died." "So powerful?" the Dark Emperor said in surprise. "No matter how strong you are, there will always be someone stronger." Ning Lu clasped his hands behind his back and said with a steady expression, "Don't underestimate the people of this world. The situation in the immortal spirit realm has changed recently, and many hidden old demons have appeared. Even the forces of the higher planes have sent large numbers of sages down. So you should hurry up and cultivate." As he spoke, Ning Lu paused for a brief moment before pointing at Ning Yu and continued, "Your cultivation is only at the pinnacle 9th grade Earth Sovereign Realm. There's still a huge gap between you and the Heavenly Sovereign Realm, so you'll have to go into seclusion for a period of time. You can't come out until you reach the Heavenly Sovereign Realm. Do you think Heavenly Sovereigns are cabbages? You can easily reach it?" The Dark Emperor rolled his eyes, clearly not believing Ning Lu's words. "You can't be careless. The situation in the immortal spirit realm is about to change. There's a high chance that you'll encounter a large number of geniuses and old demons in this trip to the Alchemy Union," Ning Yu said solemnly. "A pinnacle 9th grade Earth Sovereign like you can't keep up. What the F***CK? The Dark Emperor immediately cursed. "Don't tell me the two of you are working together to frame me? I don't believe that there are that many heavenly sovereigns in the Alchemy Union." Whoosh! Right at this moment, a cold light tore through the sky and flashed down from the 9 heavens. The cold light landed in the room where Elder Tianji and Yunmu were. Russell. Not long after the cold light landed, Elder Tianji and Yunmu hurriedly ran out. "What's going on?" Ningyu was puzzled when he saw Elder Tianji's flustered expression. "The Alchemy Union has sent out a hero's invitation, inviting all the experts of the Sky Demon Territory to gather in the Alchemy Emperor City to discuss the matter of resisting the demonic spirit realm." Elder Tianji explained with a solemn expression. "Inviting all the experts of the Sky Demon Territory? Does the Alchemy Union have that much influence?" Ningyu was slightly stunned. The Alchemy Union didn't have that much influence in the past, but the current Alchemy Union does indeed have that much influence. Elder Tianji took a deep breath and said, "It's because the Alchemy Union from a higher plane suddenly sent a few alchemists. I heard that there are 10th grade pill emperors." Swish! When the words "pill sovereign" fell from Elder Tianji's mouth, the entire area instantly fell silent. Pill emperors were existences that surpassed 9th grade alchemists. As an alchemist, Ningyu knew better than anyone what pill emperors meant. They surpassed peak 9th grade alchemists, and their soul force reached 10th grade, entering another realm. Even the weakest pill emperors had terrifying strength. "You said that the Alchemy Union sent out a hero's invitation. Does that mean that the experts of the Gene family will also be there?" Ningyu seemed to have thought of something and asked hastily. "The experts of the Gene family will definitely be there. Apart from the experts of the Gene family, almost all the top experts of the Sky Demon Territory will be there," Elder Tianji said with certainty, "because the Alchemy Union announced that they will be holding an alchemy conference in the Alchemy Emperor City in a month's time. At that time, they will take out a few 10th grade elixirs as rewards. The top few of the Alchemy Conference will even be accepted as disciples by the Pill Emperor." A month, huh? Ningyu didn't care about the Alchemy Conference. What he cared about was the 1 month's time between now and the Alchemy Conference. His idea was simple. As long as all the sages of the Gene family left for the Alchemy Union, the Gene family would be empty. At that time, he could lead the experts of the Supreme Palace to besiege the Gene family. Ever since he came to the Dancheng mainland, the Gene family had gone against him time and time again. They even brought their experts to besiege the Nebula School. Now that the opportunity was here, how could he let it go? "Senior, what do you think of taking drastic measures?" Ningyu lowered his voice and said, "Drastic measures?" Elder Tianji's eyes widened and waved his hand. "Don't do anything stupid. Although the experts of the Gene family will go to the Alchemy Emperor City, They will definitely leave some sages behind. They might even leave some late-stage sages behind. Forget it. I was just saying. Ningyu shrugged and said, Senior, how are your preparations? My preparations are almost done. The main thing is whether you have anything to say on your side. Elder Tianji said. This time, Elder Tianji only had Yun Mu and Reverend Talisman Marshall on his side. As for Palace Master Bai Hua and Fairy Yun Shi, they wouldn't follow him to the Alchemy Emperor's city. Chapter 1776. Senior, please wait. I'll make the arrangements. Ningyu smiled at Elder Tianji and left with Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor. Yun Mu's lips curled into a smile as he watched Ningyu leave. Elder Tianji, do you really think he can help you resolve the next 3 calamities? Nothing is absolute. It's always good to have another choice, Elder Tianji said. Do whatever you want. Just don't beg me to resolve the seal in your body, Yun Mu said. No. Elder Tianji hurriedly said, You promised me. You can't go back on your word. I can't be bothered with you. Yun Mu rolled his eyes and closed his eyes to rest. Elder Tianji stomped his feet in frustration at Yun Mu's actions. Ningyu didn't know about the conversation between Yun Mu and Elder Tianji. At this moment, Ningyu stood on the high platform and slowly scanned the people below. Arowana King, tell me about the current size of Supreme Palace. Ningyu's gaze finally stopped on the Arowana King. Cough, cough. The golden Arowana Fish King coughed and said loudly, The Supreme Palace currently has 6 branches. The Palace Master of the Fish King Palace is the golden Arowana King, which is me, a peak 9th grade Earth Supreme. I have a total of 20 capable subordinates, ranging from 9th grade Earth Supreme to 1st grade Earth Supreme. As for the rest of the golden Arowanas, whose cultivation is below the sovereign realm, I won't go into details. The leader of the Wolven Kingdom is Bada, a peak 9th grade Earth Supreme. He has a total of 30 Earth Supreme rank subordinates, 80 bloodthirsty wolves at the venerable rank, and a sacred wolf at the 3rd grade Earth Supreme rank. Nebula Palace. The Palace Master is Grandmaster Nebula, who recently advanced to the 9th grade Earth Supreme. His subordinates are mainly students and elders from Nebula Academy. Pill Emperor Palace. The Palace Master is Danguzi. The Deputy Palace Masters are the Sword of Evil and Sovereign Spirit Su. The Nightmare Palace's Palace Master, Taoist GMO, is a pinnacle 9th grade Earth Sovereign with a total of 300 subordinates. It's the branch with the most people in the Sovereign Palace. The Nine-Tailed Palace's Palace Master, Huentian, is a pinnacle heavenly sovereign with a 9-tailed fox clan under him. He's the strongest amongst all the branches. After hearing the golden Arowana King's words, Ningyu frowned slightly before speaking in a clear voice. From now on, the Supreme Palace will have 2 more branches. Array Temple, Master Zhao, Vice Leader Zhao Lin. Warlord Hall, Hall Master, the leader of the Stone Beetles, Gao Zhengde, Zhan Yi, and the others will all be assigned to Warlord Hall. From now on, Warlord Hall will be responsible for charging and breaking through enemy lines. It's Supreme Palace's vanguard. Ningyu originally wanted to make the Stone Beetle leader the Hall Master, but Ningyu changed his mind at the last minute. Right now, the Supreme Hall wasn't perfect enough. The cultivation of the Hall Masters was relatively low. There were even quite a few Hall Masters who were only at the Earth Supreme realm. In the past, the Earth Supreme realm might have been stronger. However, the situation in the Celestial Spirit realm was stable, and the Earth Supreme realm was no longer enough. It could be said that those who weren't at the Sage realm would find it hard to advance. Ningyu didn't establish the Supreme Hall for fun, but to make them his right-hand men. Although it seemed useless now, Ningyu believed that as his strength grew, the strength of the entire Supreme Hall would rise as well. I have to go to the Jin family. Ningyu's gaze swept across the golden Arowana King, Bada, and the others. He took a deep breath and muttered, If I can destroy the Jin family, the Supreme Hall's strength will rise to another level. Thinking about it was one thing, but Ningyu wouldn't foolishly let the Supreme Hall attack the Jin family. Even if he wanted to go, he had to make sure that the Jin family's experts had left It's all thanks to everyone that the Supreme Hall could develop to this stage. As he spoke, Ningyu bowed towards everyone from the Supreme Hall. Thereafter, Ningyu continued, Golden Arowana King, Grandmaster Xingyun, Dan Guzi, Huentian, Grandmaster Zhao, and Stone Beetle Leader, prepare yourselves and follow me to the Pill Emperor City. Furthermore, after we leave, the Supreme Hall will be jointly managed by Dao Master Mo and Bada. Their words are my words. The reason why Ningyu left Dao, Master Mo, and Bada behind was because the two of them were pinnacle 9th grade Earth sovereigns. They could control the overall situation. Although the trip to the Alchemy Union seemed extremely dangerous, it was actually filled with opportunities. If everything went smoothly, the cultivation of the Golden Arowana King and the others would increase by at least a level. Hall Master, I would like to have the Saint Wolf follow you to broaden your horizons. At this moment, below the high platform, Bada hesitated for a moment before speaking. I want to go as well. As soon as Bada's voice fell, another sharp voice resounded in the area. The Saint Wolf can follow me. As for Xiaolin, Ningyu paused for a brief moment before continuing. You can come with me, but Grandmaster Zhao has to stay behind. After saying that, Ningyu casually threw 2 interspatial pouches to Dao Master Mo and Bada before leaving without looking back. After catching the interspatial pouches that Ningyu threw over, Bada and Dao Master Mo unleashed their senses and briefly probed the contents of the interspatial pouches. The two of them sucked in a breath of cold air as soon as they probed it. Rest assured, Hall Master, we won't let you down. Bada and Dao Master Mo said solemnly in the direction that Ningyu left. What's in the interspatial pouch? What's in the interspatial pouch? To make you guys show such expressions. Don't tell me it's a Saint grade origin crystal. After Ningyu left, everyone gathered around Bada and Dao Master Mo and started discussing. Go. For the next month, all of you will be in seclusion. If anyone's cultivation base can increase by a level, he waved his hand and said, then hurry up and leave the Supreme Hall. Dao Master Mo's words caused the crowd to boil. Since Dao Master Mo dared to say that, it meant that there were many things in the interspatial pouch. Could the Hall Master have left us immortal crystals? Swish! The seething crowd quieted down in an instant when a voice rang out. Everyone's gazes shifted to the cultivator who spoke. Why are you guys looking at me? I just thought that since the Hall Master is so impressive, the things he left behind must be... No, it should be immortal crystals, right? The cultivator scratched his head in embarrassment as everyone stared at him. There are indeed immortal crystals in the interspatial pouch. Dao Master Mo went straight to the cultivator's side and patted his shoulder before suddenly changing the topic. However, immortal crystals aren't the best things in the interspatial pouch. That's right. Bada and Dao Master Mo exchanged glances and could see the fervent look in each other's eyes. Although immortal crystals would drive them crazy, that was all. After all, immortal crystals were not enough for them to advance as quickly as possible. Immortal crystals were not the only things left behind by Ningyu. There were even good things that they could only dream of. Half a drop of Qilin blood. Chapter 1777. For Corner City. It was a city that wasn't too big. It was called Four Corner City because of its superior geographical location. It was the core hub of the Pill Formation mainland. To the east of Four Corner City was the Thousand Leaf Empire. To the west was the Cloudy Wind Empire. To the south was the Heavenly Dragon Empire. To the north was the Purple Sun Empire. The four great empires of the Pill Formation mainland were all adjacent to Four Corner City. Such a superior geographical location meant that Four Corner City was destined to be extremely prosperous, but it was also a mixed bag. Zhao Guocheng was the city lord of Four Corner City and was a late-stage Sky Supreme. Generally speaking, the four empires would not interfere in a sensitive place like Four Corner City. They allowed him to develop freely. But recently, Zhao Guocheng had trouble sleeping and eating. There was no other reason. The four empires were trying to pressure him and wanted to secretly control Four Corner City. At first, Zhao Guocheng did not know why. But after some investigation, he finally figured out the situation. It was said that there was a mine in the back mountain of Four Corner City. There were likely to be immortal crystals in the mine. Of course, there were only a few people who knew about this, and they were all powerhouses from big forces. Some small fries were not qualified to know. Zhao Guocheng was very excited when he first learned that there might be immortal crystals in the back mountain of Four Corner City. On one hand, he felt that no matter who mined the immortal crystals, they would definitely give him a share. On the other hand, he felt that this was an opportunity. He might be able to make friends with the people behind the four empires. Although Zhao Guocheng lived in seclusion, he was not isolated from news. The Thousand Leaf Empire, the Cloudy Wind Empire, the Heavenly Dragon Empire, and the Purple Sun Empire. The four empires of the Pill Formation mainland had deep foundations. They could all contact people from high-level existential planes. People who descended from high-level existential planes had to be sages at the very least. If he could get pointers from a sage, Zhao Guocheng would wake up smiling even in his dreams. Therefore, when he came into contact with the four empires, Zhao Guocheng put himself very low and wanted to get what he wanted from both sides. Who would have thought that the city lord's mansion would suddenly become deserted after his plan was leaked? Zhao Guocheng knew that the four empires were clearly giving him the cold shoulder to reap the greatest benefits. After all, it was immortal crystals. No empire wanted to share it equally with others. Buzz. Just as Zhao Guocheng was feeling a headache coming on, the void beside him suddenly split open. Then, a cultivator dressed in black appeared. Have you finished investigating? Where were the people of the Qinya Empire now? Can you contact them? Zhao Guocheng said anxiously when he saw the black-clad cultivator appear. In fact, it was no wonder that Zhao Guocheng was anxious. Dragging things on like this wasn't a solution. If the four great empires joined forces, he wouldn't even have any leftovers to drink. Zhao Guocheng was very clear that the four great empires had already secretly sent people to the back mountains to observe. If they weren't afraid of each other, the back mountain would have been dug out long ago. Why would they wait until now? The four empires seemed to have joined forces and reached a preliminary agreement. The black-clothed cultivator hesitated for a while before saying, "In another 3 days, they will join hands and enter the back mountains to mine the vein." Gotcha! Zhao Guocheng abruptly rose to his feet and unleashed his late-stage Sky Supreme aura. The chair he was sitting on couldn't withstand the impact of this aura and directly shattered. This is too much. Zhao Guocheng clenched his fists and said coldly, "I am the city lord of Four Corner City. Without my permission, no one can mine that mineral vein." At this moment, Zhao Guocheng seemed to have returned to the high-spirited state he was in many years ago. Humph! After a while, Zhao Guocheng took a deep breath and slowly said, "How's the investigation going? How many experts did the four empires leave behind?" The Jin family of the Qinya Empire left behind 3 experts, 2 early-stage sages and 1 late-stage Sky Supreme. The black-clothed cultivator sorted out his thoughts and said, "The Lan family of the Cloudy Wind Empire left behind 2 early-stage sages and 3 late-stage Sky Supreme. The Xie family of the Heavenly Dragon Empire left behind 4 experts, 1 early-stage sage and 3 pinnacle Sky Supreme. As for the Purple Sun Empire, it seems that only 1 expert stayed behind. His cultivation should be mid-stage sage." Hiss! As soon as the black-clothed cultivator's words fell, Zhao Guocheng took a deep breath. Zhao Guocheng could understand if an early-stage sage stayed behind. But why did the Purple Sun Empire leave a mid-stage sage behind? Didn't he want to try his luck at the Divine Dance City? Forget it. I've decided to give up the back mountain. I just hope that they can leave me 1 or 2 immortal crystals in the end." Zhao Guocheng said weakly with a wave of his hand. Seeing Zhao Guocheng's dispirited look, the black-clothed cultivator hesitated for a moment and whispered, "The elder of Tianji also came to Square City. So be it. Anyway, with me." "What?" Zhao Guocheng said casually. Then, halfway through his words, Zhao Guocheng shivered and hurriedly said, "You said that the elder of Tianji also came?" "Yes, I saw him at the square restaurant. But there were a few people with the elder of Tianji." The black-clothed cultivator thought for a moment and told Zhao Guocheng everything he saw. "You can leave first. I know what I'm doing." Zhao Guocheng gestured for the black-clothed cultivator to leave. But before the black-clothed cultivator disappeared, Zhao Guocheng reminded him again, "Remember not to alert the enemy." After the black-clothed cultivator left, Zhao Guocheng secretly thought about the message left behind by the black-clothed cultivator. One was a child, and one was a young man. Both were mid-stage Sky Supreme, and there was also a saint with his aura restrained. The more he thought about it, the more Zhao Guocheng felt that things were not that simple. Perhaps this group of people had another identity. The child and the young man were most likely from higher plane, and their status was not low either. Otherwise, if even a child could cultivate to mid-stage Sky Supreme, wouldn't he have lived all these years in vain? I have to contact the elder of Tianji. Who knows, I might be able to get in touch with him. The reason Zhao Guocheng could become the city lord of Square City for so many years was not only because of his late-stage Sky Supreme cultivation, but also because of his courage. After all, Square City's geographical location was superior. It was difficult to become a city lord here without some ability. Take this matter as an example. Since he could not ally with the four empires, he could only find another way and choose to protect himself. Coincidentally, the elder of Tianji came at this time. Therefore, cooperating with the elder of Tianji became Zhao Guocheng's most important matter at this stage. Whoever stopped him from meeting with the elder of Tianji would be going against him and destroying his rice bowl. I can't meet the elder of Tianji like this. I should change my identity. Zhao Guocheng turned a scroll on the wall, opened a secret room, and walked straight in. In Square City, probably no one knew that Zhao Guocheng had a second identity. Chapter 1778. In a private room on the second floor of the Square restaurant. The Jean family is fast. Ningyu took a sip of wine and said, "I didn't expect to be targeted as soon as I left the Thousand Leaves Empire. You're thinking too much. They're not after you." Yinmu also took a sip of wine on Ningyu's left. "If I'm not wrong, the Jean family isn't the only force in this city. Even the other empires are involved, including the Purple Sun Empire." The Purple Sun Empire? Ningyu was slightly stunned and puzzled. But soon, Ningyu felt relieved. Since the Jean family wasn't after him, he didn't need to get involved in this matter for the time being. Anyway, his goal this time was to go to the Divine Dance City. Square Restaurant was just passing by. He would stay here for a day at most. Ningyu knew about the Purple Sun Empire. There were 4 empires in the Dansheng mainland. Among them, the Thousand Leaves Empire, the Cloudy Wind Empire, and the Heavenly Dragon Empire were almost the same in terms of power. But the Purple Sun Empire was the most powerful of the 4 empires. There were even rumors that if the Purple Sun Empire wanted to, it could easily annex the other empires. Because the Purple Sun Empire had a Sage Realm powerhouse, and he was a mid-stage sage. The mid-stage sage realm martial artist from the Purple Sun Empire was different from the other 3 empires. The Sage Realm martial artists from the other 3 empires were all from a higher plane. Only the mid-stage Sage Realm martial artist from the Purple Sun Empire was from the Purple Sun Empire. "We'll rest in Square Restaurant for a day and buy some things. We'll leave tomorrow morning." Ningyu picked up his chopsticks and picked up a piece of wild bamboo. "I want to stay in Square Restaurant for 3 days." Yinmu held up 3 fingers and said, "The show is about to start. Since we're here, we can't miss it." "What show?" Before Ningyu could speak, Lu Wei, who was sitting on his right, pouted. This time, Ningyu left Giant Shield City with Bonehead and Lu Wei. After all, Ningyu would definitely be worried about leaving Lu Wei alone in Giant Shield City. For some reason, Lu Wei's temperament had changed greatly after the Great Change in Giant Shield City. At first, he might have been a little willful, but now, he had become taciturn. However, reticence was relative. Lu Wei wasn't a fool. He could see that Yinmu seemed to be interested in Ningyu. Usually, Yinmu would keep a straight face no matter what he said, but when he spoke to Ningyu, he was very amiable. Immortal crystals. Yun Mu smiled faintly and said, in a mountain behind Four Corner City, there's an immortal crystal mine. Although there are not many immortal crystals in it, it is not little either. Dong! Dong! Ningyu put down his chopsticks and gently tapped the table. If he still didn't understand Yun Mu's words, then he would be a bit stupid. Although Yun Mu and the Talisman Supremacy's cultivation had improved rapidly, they were still only high-level Earth Supremacies. High-level Earth Supremacies seemed to have high cultivation, but it was still very difficult to snatch food from the tiger's mouth. Elder Tianji, what do you think about this? Ningyu's gaze fell on Elder Tianji. Immortal crystals are important, but there are some things that we have to be on guard against. It wasn't that Ningyu didn't want immortal crystals, but he had his own worries. It wasn't the right time to fall out with the Thousand Leaf Empire's Jin family. Since the Jin family had a sage in Four Corner City, it meant that the Jin family also wanted immortal crystals. If they were to clash with the Jin family now, Ningyu was afraid that the Jin family's pinnacle sage would suddenly come back. With their current strength, if the Jin family's pinnacle sage came back, they would all be finished. Don't worry, I promise that I will handle it properly. No one will know that we did it. Yun Mu said hurriedly when he saw that Ningyu was tempted. Yun Mu really wanted immortal crystals. As long as she had immortal crystals, large amounts of immortal crystals, she could even skip several levels. With Yun Mu's strength alone, it would be difficult for her to reach the back mountain of Four Corner City, let alone snatch the immortal crystals in the mine. Ningyu didn't care about Yun Mu, his gaze still on Elder Tianji. Cough, cough. For some reason, Elder Tianji suddenly felt a little guilty being stared at by Ningyu. Elder Tianji coughed twice and said, that pinnacle sage from the Jin family has long arrived at Divine Dance City. I see. Ningyu frowned and thought for a while. Then he said, if there's no Peak Saint Realm martial artist interfering, we can do it. However, it won't be easy for us to snatch the immortal crystals in the immortal crystal mine, right? Easy, very easy. Yun Mu patted his chest and guaranteed. I have investigated. That vital crystal mine is located in the back mountain of Four Corner City. The ownership belongs to the city lord of Four Corner City, Zhao Guochang. As long as he agrees, we can immediately mine it. If that's the case, you can call Zhao Guochang over. Let's have a chat, Ningyu said with his hands under his chin. All right. Yun Mu's face lit up, and he quickly left. Venerable Talisman Marshal took a look and left the room with Yun Mu. After Yun Mu and Venerable Talisman Marshal left, Ningyu's face instantly turned gloomy. Elder Tianji, although I'm young and my cultivation is only at the middle stage of Sky Supreme, please don't treat me like a fool. I will do my best in this matter. Treat it as a reward for saving Lu Wei and the rest. All right. Elder Tianji smiled awkwardly when he heard Ningyu's words, but he didn't say anything. In order to let Yun Mu recover his previous life's cultivation, Elder Tianji did lie to Ningyu. Originally, to go to Divine Dance City, there was no need to pass through Four Corner City. Elder Tianji had already predicted that there would be an immortal crystal mine here. He wanted to borrow Ningyu's hand to help him fight for the immortal crystals. In an instant, the room became silent. Drip, drip. Time passed minute by minute. 5 minutes after Yun Mu left, the door of the room was suddenly pushed open from the outside. Creak. A group of 3 martial artists walked in from outside the room. Zhao Guochang was very nervous. To be honest, as soon as he changed to the identity of Four Corner Bank Lord, someone called out to him, and he was addressed as City Lord Zhao. Zhao Guochang followed Yun Mu and Venerable Talisman Marshal to Four Corner Restaurant anxiously. Elder Tianji. As soon as he entered the room, Zhao Guochang's eyes dimmed. He hurriedly said, "It's really you." At first, when Yun Mu said he would bring Zhao Guochang to see Elder Tianji, Zhao Guochang didn't quite believe it. Now that he saw Elder Tianji with his own eyes, how could Zhao Guochang not be shocked? Take a seat. This time, I called you here mainly to discuss the ownership of the immortal crystal mine. Ningyu sized Zhao Guochang up, then pointed to the empty seat on the other side of the table and said, If I want the ownership of the immortal crystal mine, will there be any difficulty? Rumble. Zhao Guoqing's mind instantly exploded. Ownership. Zhao Guoqing's gaze swept across the room. Then his face turned completely gloomy. The reason why the four empires wanted to rope him in was because he controlled the immortal crystal mine. There was no other reason. If he wanted to reach the immortal crystal mine, he had to pass through a bronze door. Chapter 1779. Elder Tianji, is this what you want? Zhao Guocheng didn't answer Ningyu. Instead, his gaze shifted to Elder Tianji. Although you're a senior, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for you to get something without risking anything. We've already investigated your matter. In order to help Yin Mu, Elder Tianji could only bite the bullet. The four empires have experts stationed in Four Corner City. You're now the target of everyone. The key is no different from a hot potato in your hands. Giving it to Ningyu for safekeeping isn't a bad choice. Zhao Wuqing's chest heaved up and down. It was obvious he was furious. But soon, Zhao Guocheng took a deep breath. I want 50% of the immortal crystals in the mine. Hearing Zhao Wuqing's words, Ningyu spat out a mouthful of wine. 50%? He really dared to ask for it. A late-stage Sky Supreme asking for 50% of the immortal crystals? His appetite was a bit big. 5. Ningyu stretched out 5 fingers and said in an unquestionable tone, I can give you 5 immortal crystals at most, nothing more. Zhao Wuqing's face was ashen. He'd seen haggling before, but he'd never seen such a high price. According to Zhao Guoqing's calculations, if all the immortal crystals in the mine were mined, there would be at least 1,000 of them. This mid-stage Sky Supreme in front of him had raised the price from 500 to 5. How terrifying. Without my key, none of you can pass through the bronze gate. Zhao Guocheng said fiercely. Also, I've already told you before that if I don't return within a certain amount of time, the key will be destroyed. Send the guest off. Ningyu shrugged. He didn't express any opinion. In any case, the one who needed the immortal crystals was Elder Tianji, not him. Even if Zhao Guocheng didn't hand over the key, Ningyu didn't care. Do you think you can open the bronze gate without the key? Elder Tianji said. I've received news that the 4 empires seem to have joined forces. In 2 days, they'll gather at the back mountain of Four Corner City to blast open the bronze gate. Rumble. The news brought by the Elder of Heavenly Secrets was like a sudden clap of thunder, causing Zhao Guocheng to freeze on the spot. The reason why he was able to sit firmly in his position as the city lord and deal with the 4 empires was because he had the key, the only key that could open the bronze door. Although the defense of the bronze gate was very strong, and even a primary sage realm warrior would find it difficult to break it open, the bronze gate was not as strong as the bronze gate. However, if one sage could not do it, what about 2? What about 3? What about 4? There were at least 7 or 8 sages from the 4 great empires combined. Moreover, the Purple Sun Empire also had a middle stage Saint Realm warrior. Perhaps if they joined forces, they could really blast open the bronze door. Zhao Guoqing knew better than anyone that once the bronze door was blasted open, he would no longer have any value in living. There was no need for these martial artists in front of him to act. His life would definitely be taken by the powerhouses of the 4 empires. After all, the patience of the people from the 4 empires had been worn out recently. The defense of the bronze door is very strong. Even a warrior at the middle stage of the Saint Realm can forget about breaking it open. Zhao Guocheng roared. However, even he wasn't confident in his own words. Elder Tianji, you guys have a good discussion. Come and find me when you're done. At this moment, Ningyu stood up and walked out of the private room. When he reached the door, Ningyu stopped and turned around. I want 90% of the immortal crystals in the immortal crystal vein. After saying that, Ningyu led Ning Lu and Dark Monarch Ning Lu and the rest out of the room without looking back. In the private room, Elder Tianji looked slightly disappointed when he saw Ningyu leaving. In order to help Yin Mu get the immortal crystals, he didn't even hesitate to offend Ningyu. In fact, Elder Tianji's heart was as clear as a mirror. Previously in the giant shield city, he protected all of Ningyu's friends. Now that he asked for Ningyu's help, it was only natural that Ningyu wouldn't refuse. Most importantly, they were the ones who schemed against Ningyu first, causing Ningyu to be unhappy. Ningyu was a person who made a clear distinction between love and hate. I'll definitely return what I owe you, but don't treat me like a fool. How troublesome. After leaving the private room, Ningyu and the rest returned to their respective rooms. In the room, Ning Lu frowned slightly and asked in confusion, Ningyu, why don't you seem interested in the immortal crystal vein? Don't tell me you don't know the value of the immortal crystal vein. It was no wonder that Ning Lu was confused. In the immortal spirit realm, immortal crystals were the highest grade of essence crystals. Using immortal crystals to cultivate could often achieve twice the results with half the effort. Hence, Ning Lu was very puzzled that Ningyu didn't seem interested in the immortal crystal vein. Immortal crystals are good stuff. Who doesn't want them? Ningyu smiled and said, but before you snatch the immortal crystals, you have to use your brain. You said that I don't have a brain? Why don't we spar? Ning Lu was furious and wanted to spar with Ningyu. For you guys to be able to escape from Giant Shield City this time, you should mainly thank Elder Tianji, followed by Yun Mu and the Talisman Supremacy. Ningyu slowly said, so in this matter, we owe Elder Tianji and the others a gargantuan favor. We have to return the favor we owe. This is a matter of course. But Elder Tianji treats me like a fool and wants to trick me. I can't tolerate this. As he said that, Ningyu's face darkened and became very scary. How did he trick you? Lu Wei asked. In the room, other than Ningyu and Ning Lu, the Dark Emperor and Lu Wei were also there. In the private room, Lu Wei and Yun Mu had argued a few times. But Lu Wei didn't see that Ningyu was tricked. In Lu Wei's opinion, if someone told you about the immortal crystal vein, you shouldn't have that kind of attitude towards them. Didn't you guys notice? That Zhao Guoqing knows Elder Tianji and Yun Mu. Ningyu paced back and forth in a room before saying, if I'm not wrong, they want to push us out and keep an eye on the people from the four empires while they reap the benefits. If you guys are working together, that's how it should be, Lu Wei nodded. That's the crux of the matter. Ningyu's face darkened again. Usually, it's fine for me to stand out. But now is a crucial period. If we offend the people from the four empires in Four Corner City, even if we reach Divine Dance City, we're destined to have a hard time. Each of the four great empires has a connection with the higher planes. This time, the Alchemist Association has sent out the hero invitations. I don't want to become the target of public criticism the moment I arrive in Divine Dance City. I see. Hearing Ning Yu's explanation, Lu Wei and Ning Lu nodded lightly. After Ning Yu's analysis, things seemed to be much simpler. Then what do we do now? The Dark Emperor lazily laid on the bed, raised his head to look at Ningyu, and asked, wait. Chapter 1780. Creak. Not long after Ningyu sat down, the door to the room was pushed open. Zhao Guoqing has agreed to your request. He only wants 5 immortal crystals. The elder of Tianji walked in and smiled. As for the remaining immortal crystals, I'll split it with you. Where's the key? Ningyu stretched out his right hand, the key to the bronze door. Zhao Guoqing went back to get it, said the elder of Tianji. That's good. Have a good rest for the next 2 days. We'll meet up with the people from the 4 empires in 2 days. Ningyu shrugged and said lightly, I won't disturb you anymore. I'll come find you in 2 days. The elder of Tianji quietly left the room and closed the door. Is he really the elder of Tianji? Not long after the elder of Tianji left, the Dark Emperor wagged his tail and asked in confusion. Back in the giant shield city, the elder of Tianji was in charge of everything. What does it have to do with you whether or not other people are guiding the country? Ningyu rolled his eyes. You're only a pinnacle 9th grade Earth Supreme. You have to advance to the Heavenly Supreme in the next 2 days. Otherwise, you won't get any immortal crystals. No. The Dark Emperor immediately jumped up from the bed when he heard Ningyu's words. Advancing from a pinnacle 9th grade Earth Supreme to a Heavenly Supreme in 2 days might seem easy, but it was actually harder than ascending to the heavens. An ordinary genius might take 2 days to advance from a pinnacle ninth-grade Earth Supreme to a heavenly Supreme. But for the Dark Emperor, 2 days wasn't enough. One must know that the Dark Emperor was a Sky Devourer Hound. Every time a Sky Devourer Hound advanced, it would consume a terrifying amount of energy. It could be said that the energy required for the Dark Emperor to advance from a pinnacle ninth-grade Earth Supreme to a heavenly Supreme was enough for 3 or 4 pinnacle ninth-grade Earth Sovereigns to become heavenly Supreme. I just advanced to a pinnacle ninth-grade Earth Supreme not long ago. How can I advance to a heavenly Supreme in 2 days? If you don't want to give me the immortal crystals, just say it. I don't have any objections. The Dark Emperor Tower lowered his head and said, "Anyway, it's impossible for me to advance from a pinnacle ninth-grade Earth Supreme to a heavenly Supreme in 2 days. Anyone can. No one can do it, right?" Ningyu interrupted the Dark Emperor's words and took out a small jade bottle from his bosom. He shook it and said, "What if we add this thing? Everything is... I'm going to find it." His voice was interrupted by Ningyu. The Dark Emperor was originally a little angry, but very quickly, the Dark Emperor jumped up from the bed and snatched the jade bottle from Ningyu's hand. "Kirin blood. You actually have Qilin blood." The Dark Emperor was extremely excited. He did not expect that Ningyu actually had Qilin blood. The Dark Emperor was a heaven-devouring hound, a purple-gold heaven-devouring hound. In ancient times, the purple-gold sky-devouring hound was comparable to a Qilin. With a drop of Qilin blood for the Dark Emperor to refine, not to mention reaching the heavenly Supreme realm, he was confident that he could even reach the middle phase heavenly Supreme realm. "Me too." Suddenly, a voice rang out in the room. Hearing this voice, Ningyu was stunned at first. Then his gaze shifted to Lu Wei. Because this voice came from Lu Wei. "Why are you looking at me? It's Furball." Being stared at by Ningyu, Lu Wei hurriedly pushed Furball out and said, "Furball also wants Qilin blood. Little Black has Qilin blood, I want it too." Furball poked his head out and said to Ningyu, "Give me a drop. No, give me 2 drops of Qilin blood." Ningyu's face was filled with black lines. At first, Ningyu was still shocked that Furball could speak. Now, Ningyu had a sad face and felt a little helpless. Furball could not speak, so he could still rely on a few drops of Qilin blood. But now, Furball could speak, and the first thing he asked was for Qilin blood. Previously, Ningyu had given all the Qilin blood in his body to Human Demon. But when he left Giant Shield City, Ningyu shamelessly asked for 4 drops of Qilin blood from Little Qilin. Half a drop was given to Bada and Shinimo for them to develop Supreme Hall. 1 drop was given to Dark Emperor, allowing him to advance to Sky Supreme in 2 days. As for the remaining 2.5 drops, Ningyu planned to keep them for when he was in danger. After all, Qilin blood was very effective for healing. Furball wanted 2 drops of Qilin blood at once. How could Ningyu not be sad? At most 1 drop. Ningyu threw a drop of Qilin blood to Furball and said, "Your cultivation is half-step Sky Supreme. Advance to early stage Sky Supreme in 2 days. Only 1 drop." Furball was clearly unhappy after catching the Qilin blood and pouted. "If I have 2 drops of Qilin blood, I can at least advance to late-stage Sky Supreme." Ningyu pretended he didn't hear it. Little Qilin had personally said not to ask him for more Qilin blood in the future. Hence, every drop of Qilin blood he used was 1 drop less. "Lu Wei, you can have this half drop of Qilin blood." Ningyu took out the other half drop of Qilin blood and handed it to Lu Wei. Ever since Lu Wei's extreme Yin physique was broken, her purple spirit constitution was revealed. Purple spirit constitution allowed her to advance rapidly. In a short period of time, Lu Wei's cultivation soared and was now a first-grade Earth Supreme. Although Lu Wei was only a first-grade Earth Supreme, Ningyu believed that Lu Wei would definitely advance to Sky Supreme in a short period of time. Because as Lu Wei's cultivation increased, Ningyu discovered that there was a terrifying energy in Lu Wei's body. Bit by bit, this energy leaked out for Lu Wei's cultivation. As a result, Lu Wei's cultivation could advance by leaps and bounds without the need for crystals or elixirs. "You should keep this drop of Qilin blood for yourself. I might not need it." Lu Wei looked at the half-drop of Qilin blood in the jade bottle and threw it to Ningyu. Recently, there seems to be something in my mind. Anyway, before I advance to Sky Supreme, it's not suitable for me to devour all kinds of energy. All right, since Lu Wei didn't want it, Ningyu didn't continue to refuse. Half a drop of Qilin blood didn't seem like much, but it could save his life at a crucial moment. Ningyu, aren't you being too unkind? Ninglu rolled his eyes and said, in the entire room, besides me, you've given everyone else Qilin blood. What about me? What do you want a Qilin blood for? Ningyu asked. To cultivate, of course. Ninglu said angrily. Give me the rest of the Qilin blood, and I'll be of great help to you on this trip. Stop. Don't try to trick my Qilin blood. Ningyu hurriedly threw the Qilin blood into the Tower of Ascension and took out a separate layer to ensure that Ninglu couldn't come into contact with it. Don't worry. When we get the immortal crystals, I'll let you devour them to your heart's content. Then, Ningyu patted his chest and promised, how much energy does a drop of Qilin blood contain? Think about it. 1,000 immortal crystals are placed in front of you. How grand and spectacular would that be? Chapter 1781. I don't want to talk to you. Rolling his eyes at Ningyu, Ninglu left the room. The fairy crystal vein was located in the back mountain of Four Corner City, and one had to pass through the bronze gate to reach it. It seemed that Ningyu had the key to the bronze gate and had an absolute advantage. However, Ningyu, who possessed the key, became the common enemy of the four empires. Therefore, it was not as easy as it seemed to be to gain an advantage in the trip to the fairy crystal vein 2 days later. I'm leaving too. Holding Fur Ball in his arms, Lu Xuan left with Ninglu. This room is mine. Ningyu, go find a room. The Dark Emperor laid on the bed and said to Ningyu impatiently, with a drop of Qilin blood, I can at least advance to the middle stage Sky Supreme in 2 days. My cultivation will be the same as yours. Ningyu didn't care about the Dark Emperor. Even if the Dark Emperor asked him to stay, he would never stay. Creak. Ningyu gently closed the door and got a room on the side. Buzz. As soon as Ningyu entered the room, the void trembled and a middle-aged man slowly appeared. Tell me. Ningyu found a chair and asked, how many sages are there in Four Corner City? According to my investigation, there are a total of 6 sage realm warriors in Four Corner City. Zhang Chang sorted out his thoughts and replied, among them, there are 2 early-stage sage realm warriors from the Jin family of Thousand Leaves Empire, 2 early-stage sage realm warriors from the Lan family of Cloudy Wind Empire, 1 early-stage sage realm warrior from the Xie family of Heavenly Dragon Empire, and 1 early-stage sage realm warrior from the Purple Sun Empire. If you were to fight with the middle-stage sage realm warrior from the Purple Sun Empire, how confident are you? To win? Ningyu asked with a frown. I basically have no chance of winning. Zhang Chang shook his head and said, the middle-stage sage realm warrior from the Purple Sun Empire is terrifyingly powerful. An ordinary late-stage sage realm warrior is no match for him. Oh, hearing Zhang Chang's explanation, Ningyu was slightly interested. A sage intermediate-stage cultivator would not feel any pressure against a sage late-stage cultivator. From this, it could be seen that the Saint of the Purple Sun Empire was a genius among geniuses. Of course, there was another possibility. That was, the Sage of the Purple Sun Empire was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. His real cultivation was far beyond the middle stage of the sage. He had reached the late stage of the sage, or even the peak of the sage. The Purple Sun Empire's saint is called Ziyun. Even in the Devil's Spirit realm, she's famous. Zhang Chang continued, I understand. Don't go anywhere for the next 2 days. Stay here and protect the Dark Emperor and the others. Ningyu waved his hand and motioned Zhang Chang to leave. The matter of being a protector couldn't be sloppy. Ningyu did not want anyone to interrupt the Dark Monarch and Fur Ball at the crucial moment of their advancement. Looks like I have to increase my strength as soon as possible. After Zhang Chang left, Ningyu recalled the cultivation method of the 11th style of Emperor God incantation. Ningyu had already mastered the 10th style of Emperor God incantation. When he practiced the 11th style, heaven-breaking, no matter how hard Ningyu tried, he could not succeed. Now that Ningyu had advanced to the middle stage Sky Supreme and his soul power had reached the early 9th grade, Ningyu naturally wanted to practice heaven-breaking again. Emperor God Incantation, Supreme, 9 Purity Sword Art, Netherworld Samsara Palm. These 3 martial skills were the most terrifying martial skills that Ningyu had encountered since his rebirth. Among them, the Emperor God Incantation was even more mysterious. Ningyu had already practiced the 8th style of the Supreme 9 Purity Sword Art, Sword Wave Creation, and was only 1 step away from the 9th style, Sword Wave Destruction. As for the Emperor God Incantation, he had also practiced the 10th style, Heaven Breaking. As for the Netherworld Samsara Palm, Ningyu had practiced the 10th style, Yin Yang Palm, and was not far away from the 11th style, Fortune Palm. During the 2 days of cultivation in Square City, Ningyu had decided to improve these 3 martial skills to a higher level. For every martial skill, he needed to grasp at least 1.5 more moves. Otherwise, he would not have much of an advantage in the fight for the immortal crystal vein. Heaven Breaking. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu's primordial chi surged in his body as he took out the Black Dragon Sword. Crack! While Ningyu was secretly cultivating, in a secret chamber in the City Lord's mansion in Square City, Zhao Guocheng smashed the table and chair beside him and said coldly, "Are we really going to give the key to Ningyu?" What else? Apart from Zhao Guocheng, there were 3 other martial artists in the secret chamber. Without a doubt, one was Tianji Oldman, one was Yun Mu, and the last one was Talisman Marshal Venerable. Yun Mu's expression was very calm, and he did not seem angry at all. That Ningyu's cultivation is only at the mid-heavenly supreme realm. In my opinion, Zhao Guocheng's face turned cold as he reached out his hand and gently drew a line across his neck. That's not a bad choice. Yun Mu smiled faintly. Nonsense. Tianji Oldman stomped his right foot on the ground and said angrily, "Do as Ningyu says. Do whatever he tells you to do. Otherwise, don't blame me for turning against you." Zhao Guocheng was slightly dumbfounded when he saw Tianji Oldman's rage. Zhao Guocheng shifted his gaze to Yun Mu with a questioning look in his eyes. "Give the key to Ningyu." Yun Mu did not want to waste her breath on Zhao Guocheng. She waved her hand and said, "Then personally contact the people from the 4 great empires. Tell them that you have already given up the immortal crystal vein." "All right." Zhao Guocheng's eyes lit up as he hurriedly took his leave. After Zhao Guocheng left, Tianji Oldman frowned slightly and said, "I advise you not to make an enemy out of Ningyu and not to scheme against Ningyu." "I'm not scheming against Ningyu. I'm just getting him to work in advance." Yun Mu shrugged and said, "I can't wait for 2 days. As long as we can chase the people from the 4 great empires out of Four Corner City, the immortal crystal vein will be ours. I can promise you that when I recover to my peak state, I will do 3 things for Ningyu unconditionally." Tianji Oldman opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but did not say anything in the end. Actually, Tianji Oldman was in a difficult position. On one hand, he did not want to make an enemy out of Ningyu. On the other hand, he wanted Yun Mu to recover to her peak state as soon as possible. As for the reason, not long after they left Giant Shield City, Tianji Oldman had personally performed a divination. According to the divination, Ningyu had a grand destiny and would definitely become an important figure in the future. As for Yun Mu, it was getting more and more blurry, as if someone was deliberately hiding the divination for her. Since both sides were not simple, Tianji Oldman decided to take the middle path. He would not favor anyone. Of course, although Tianji Oldman wanted to not favor anyone, Tianji Oldman had a good relationship with Yun Mu in his previous life. In terms of judgment, he would naturally favor Yun Mu. Chapter 1782. How powerful can a mid-heavenly sovereign be? To be on the safe side, Zhao Guocheng disguised himself as the owner of Square Bank before leaving the City Lord's mansion. After leaving the City Lord's mansion, Zhao Guocheng didn't head to Square Restaurant immediately. Instead, He wandered around the streets of Square City for 2 hours. After confirming that no one was following him, Zhao Guocheng swaggered into Square Restaurant. Should I test Ningyu's strength? In a private room near the window on the second floor of Square Restaurant, Zhao Guocheng tapped his fingers on the table as he stared out of the window, deep in thought. Elder Tianji and Yunmu had described Ningyu to be so incredible, but Zhao Guocheng didn't really believe them. In terms of cultivation, Ningyu is only a mid-sky supreme, while Zhao Guocheng was a late sky supreme. In terms of age, Zhao Guocheng was much older than Ningyu. In terms of these two aspects, Ningyu was at an absolute disadvantage. Why don't we give it a try when we give him the key later? Zhao Guocheng suddenly made up his mind to test Ningyu. Zhao Guocheng stood up and walked toward Ningyu's room. However, just as Zhao Guocheng got up, he suddenly stopped. Zhao Guocheng shifted his gaze and stared at the familiar figure on the street outside the window. Xie Tao from the Heavenly Dragon Empire? Due to his frequent contact with the four great empires, Zhao Guocheng immediately recognized the old man on the street. The old man looked ordinary on the surface and was only a first-grade Earth Supreme, but that wasn't the case. Zhao Guocheng knew that Xie Tao was a Peak Sky Supreme, one of the 3 Peak Sky Supremes left in the Heavenly Dragon Empire. Why is he here? Did he discover me? Zhao Guocheng's expression changed. In order not to be discovered, he had already disguised himself as the owner of Square Bank. If he was discovered, the consequences would be dire. The key was still in his hands and hadn't been given to Ningyu. If the key was snatched from Ningyu, it wouldn't have much to do with him. But if the key was snatched from his hands, he would be finished. Therefore, at this moment, Zhao Guocheng decided to quickly hand the key to Ningyu to prevent any unforeseen events. Something's wrong. As soon as he stepped out of the room, Zhao Guocheng retracted his hand. Since Xie Tao is acting so cautiously, it means that he doesn't want the people from the other 3 empires to know about his visit to the Square Restaurant. Zhao Guocheng rolled his eyes and decided to wait and see. As long as the others did not come, Xie Tao alone would not be able to snatch the key from his hands. Let him try Ningyu first. Zhao Guocheng calmed himself down and carefully released his perception, paying close attention to Xie Tao's movements. Outside the Square Restaurant, Xie Tao looked to his left and right. After making sure that no one was following him, he carefully entered the Square Restaurant. Dong dong. Xie Tao did not stop at the first floor of the Square Restaurant. Instead, he headed straight for the second floor. Is he really here for me? Noticing that Xie Tao was walking towards the second floor, Zhao Guocheng became very nervous and decided to run away at any moment. Dong! As it turned out, Zhao Guocheng was overthinking things. After arriving at the second floor, Xie Tao did not stop either. Instead, he turned and headed for the third floor. Ningyu is on the 4th floor of the restaurant. Zhao Guocheng clenched his fists tightly, his face filled with anxiety. Zhao Guocheng hoped that Xie Tao would go find Ningyu and confront Ningyu. In fact, Zhao Guocheng had already made up his mind. After Xie Tao took down Ningyu, he would immediately leave the restaurant and return to the City Lord Manor. If Xie Tao couldn't take down Ningyu, well, Zhao Guocheng had not thought about this. Therefore, although Zhao Guocheng looked nervous on the surface, he was actually very excited. After all, Xie Tao was a Pinnacle Sky Supreme, while Ningyu was only a mid-stage Sky Supreme. A mid-stage Sky Supreme against a Pinnacle Sky Supreme. No matter how he looked at it, Ningyu should be the one to lose. Stop! On the 4th floor of the Square Restaurant, Zhang Chong reached out to stop Xie Tao, who was about to enter. Go back to where you came from. Are you sure you want to stop me? Xie Tao looked Zhang Chong up and down, then pointed at his nose. The Square Restaurant isn't owned by your family. Why can't I go in? Because Zhang Chong had concealed his aura, Xie Tao didn't know that he was a mid-stage sage. Under such circumstances, Xie Tao naturally wouldn't give Zhang Chong a good look. I said you can't go in, so you can't. Zhang Chong wanted to reprimand him, but he suddenly changed his tone. Fine, you can go in, but I won't be responsible for anything that happens. At least you know what's good for you. Xie Tao didn't hear the hidden meaning in Zhang Chong's words. He shrugged and walked straight to the room where Ningyu was. A moment later, Xietao arrived at the door of Ningyu's room. Bang! Bang! Xietao stretched out his right hand and gently knocked on the door. Creak! The door was quickly pushed open from the inside. Whoosh! The moment the door opened, Xietao clenched his right hand into a fist and punched at Ningyu. Xietao used all his strength in this attack. He instantly exerted the aura of a peak sky supreme and pressed down on Ningyu. Even a lion would use all its strength to catch a rabbit. Xietao knew this. Therefore, he didn't hold back at all. He wanted to take down Ningyu in one move. Heaven shattering. Ningyu had expected Xietao to attack. He didn't ask Zhang Chong to stop Xietao because he wanted to test the power of heaven shattering. After a few hours of cultivation, Ningyu had completely mastered heaven shattering. After all, his soul power had reached the early stage 9th grade, and his cultivation had reached the mid-stage Sky Supreme. It wasn't particularly difficult for Ningyu to master heaven shattering in a few hours. Shit! Xietao's expression changed dramatically before his fist could hit Ningyu. He hurriedly retreated. However, it was too late for Xietao to retreat now. The black dragon sword drew a beautiful arc in the air. Crack! A crisp sound was heard. Ah! Xietao screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Retreat! Xietao looked down at his palm on the ground. The first thought that came to his mind was not to fight, but to run. Since his opponent could cut off his palm in one move, it meant that he was well prepared. If he didn't run now, he wouldn't have the chance later. Xietao tore open the void and forced his way in. Crack! However, as soon as Xietao entered the void, he flew out like a dead dog and fell heavily in front of Ningyu. Several of Xietao's ribs were broken, and he looked extremely weak. You continue to keep watch. Ningyu waved his hand at the void and then kicked Xietao into the room. Gulp! On the second floor of the square restaurant, Zhao Guocheng sat on the chair and couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. How could Ningyu be so strong? Chapter 1783. Tell me, what's your name? Who told you that I'm here? Also, why are you looking for me? Inside the room, Ningyu casually found a chair and sat down. He looked straight at Xietao and said indifferently, "Umph." Xietao snorted coldly and said in a deep voice, "I advise you to let me go. Otherwise, you will become the enemy of our Heavenly Dragon Empire." Heavenly Dragon Empire's people? Ningyu frowned slightly and said, "I have no enmity with your Heavenly Dragon Empire. Why are you looking for me? No grudges?" Xietao laughed coldly and said, "Don't think that I don't know that all of you want the immortal crystal vein as well. Could it be that Elder Tianji and the others leaked the news?" Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. He vaguely felt that things weren't that simple. Logically speaking, Zhang Chong had been concealing his aura, and the strongest person in their group was only a Pinnacle Sky Supreme. Even if there were a few Pinnacle Heavenly Sovereigns, it shouldn't attract the attention of the four empires. After all, there were several sage-level warriors in the four empires. Everyone below the sage level was like an ant. Ningyu didn't believe that the sages of the four great empires would notice someone in the Sky Supreme realm. Thinking of this, Ningyu said without batting an eyelid, "I am determined to get the immortal crystal mine because I have already reached an agreement with Zhao Guocheng to mine it together." Ha ha! As if he had heard the funniest joke in the world, Xietao threw his head back and laughed maniacally. That fool, Zhao Guocheng, is only a late-phase heavenly sovereign. If it wasn't for the key, do you think that he would still be alive? Don't be naive. Let me give you a piece of advice. Give up on the celestial crystal mine as soon as possible. Otherwise, if you invite trouble upon yourself, no one will be able to save you. The more Xietao spoke, the more excited he became. He even raised his head proudly. The strongest among you is a pinnacle heavenly sovereign. No, it should be that half-step saint outside. I'll give you guys a chance. Join our Heavenly Dragon Empire and work as laborers when we mine the immortal crystal vein. Not only will you be able to escape this calamity, but you'll also be able to survive. I got a few immortal crystals. Xietao's current appearance was extremely arrogant. He did not put Ningyu in his eyes at all. Ningyu had indeed given Xie Tao the opportunity to be arrogant. He saw Ningyu sitting on a chair with his eyes closed, as if considering Xie Tao's words. Don't think about it anymore. It's such a good opportunity. If you miss it, you won't get another one. Xie Tao casually pulled a chair and sat beside Ningyu, advising him with kind words like a friend. Gotcha. However, just as Xie Tao sat on the chair, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. His body flew backward like a kite with a broken string. Bang! The sound of ribs breaking, coupled with the sound of a body hitting the wall, resounded in the area. Poochie! Blood spurted from Xie Tao's mouth. You. With no time to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth, Xie Tao raised his hand with difficulty, pointed at Ningyu, and said in horror, "You don't know what's good for you. Let's see how you're going to walk out of Four Corner City alive." "Why can't I walk out of Four Corner City alive?" Ningyu asked in puzzlement. "If I've guessed correctly, your Heavenly Dragon Empire only has one initial phase saint and 3 pinnacle heavenly sovereigns in Four Corner City. You've basically lost your ability to fight. Do you think that you can rely on 1 initial phase saint and 2 pinnacle heavenly sovereigns? Can you kill me?" "Papa." As he spoke, Ningyu clapped his hands. Creak! Zhang Chong pushed open the door and walked in. Whoosh! At the same time, Zhang Chong exerted the aura of a sage intermediate stage to suppress Xie Tao. Poochie! How could Xie Tao, who was already seriously injured, withstand the pressure of a middle stage sage? Xie Tao spat out another mouthful of blood. He looked weak and feeble, as if he could breathe his last at any time. Middle stage saint. Xie Tao's eyes widened in disbelief. Originally, he thought that Zhang Chong was only half a step away from the sage realm. The reason why he was knocked down from the void just now was because of a sneak attack. But now it seemed that he was wrong. Very, very wrong. The martial artist in front of him could easily defeat him even if he did not sneak attack. So what if he's at the middle stage sage? But soon, Xie Tao's face returned to normal. To tell you the truth, the cultivation of the martial artist from the Heavenly Dragon Empire in Four Corner City is not as simple as that of an early stage sage. Whoosh! Hearing Xie Tao's words, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly stared at Xie Tao's face, hoping to find some clues. But unfortunately, Ningyu did not find any clues. In other words, what Xie Tao said was very likely true. Could it be that the 4 great empires really left behind top experts? Instantly, such a thought came to Ningyu's mind. Top experts. 4 sage-level experts. Immortal crystals were very precious raw crystals. The reason why Ningyu did not kill Xie Tao was that he wanted to force some information out of Xie Tao. As for directly devouring Xie Tao's memory, Ningyu was not that stupid. For a top expert like Xie Tao, his sea of consciousness had been sealed. As long as someone dared to forcibly devour his memory, he would immediately explode. Therefore, Ningyu's method was to see Xie Tao's reaction through Zhang Chong. Now that Xie Tao's reaction was normal and he was not that afraid, Ningyu's idea was confirmed. However, the only thing that Ningyu could not be sure about was whether the Heavenly Dragon Empire had left behind a late-stage Sky Supreme or a peak Sky Supreme, and whether the other 3 great empires had left behind any top experts or not. It seems that I have to go to Elder Tianji and let him do the calculation. I can't just think about the benefits and be unwilling to do anything. Ningyu stood up from the chair and walked slowly to Xie Tao. He said, "The cultivation of the Heavenly Dragon Empire's martial artists is either a late-stage Sky Supreme or a peak Sky Supreme. I won't tell you. Ha ha ha. I want to see if you dare to kill me." Xie Tao seemed to have grasped Ningyu's weakness. He laughed wildly again. "Once you kill me, the experts of the Heavenly Dragon Empire will find out. At that time, you won't be able to live." Noisy, Ningyu left these 2 words and then walked straight out of the room. Huh. Seeing Ningyu leave, Xie Tao was a little confused. He did not know what Ningyu meant. But soon, Xie Tao realized the seriousness of the problem. Because Zhang Chong stayed behind. "What do you want?" "I can tell you, the Heavenly Dragon Empire doesn't want it." Seeing Zhang Chong walking towards him, Xie Tao's pupils shrank. Bang! Ningyu did not want to interfere with Zhang Chong's actions. After leaving the room, Ningyu walked towards the second floor of the square restaurant. Ningyu knew that Zhao Guocheng was still waiting for him there. Chapter 1784. The middle-aged man who attacked Xie Tao is at least an early-stage saint. On the second floor of the square restaurant, Zhao Guocheng sat in his room with a grave expression. Because Zhang Chong's aura was only released from his room on the fourth floor, Zhao Guocheng didn't know Zhang Chong's exact cultivation level. However, from the fight between Zhang Chong and Xie Tao, Zhao Guocheng could tell that Zhang Chong was an early-stage saint. That Ningyu is only an early-stage Sky Supreme. How could he defeat Xie Tao in one move? Could he be a reincarnated monster, like Yunmu? Zhao Guocheng's thoughts didn't linger on Zhang Chong for long. He quickly shifted his attention to Ningyu. Compared to Zhang Chong's cultivation level, Zhao Guocheng was more curious about Ningyu's battle prowess. No matter how he looked at it, it was a little exaggerated for an early-stage Sky Supreme to defeat a pinnacle Sky Supreme. At the very least, none of the people Zhao Guocheng knew could do it. I'll give the key to Ningyu first. I should return to the City Lord's mansion as soon as possible and discuss with Elder Tianji and the others what to do next. Zhao Guocheng looked at the closed door, got up, and walked out of the room. Creak! Zhao Guocheng hadn't taken a few steps when the door was pushed open from the outside. Zhao Guocheng was stunned when he saw the young man standing at the door. You're here. I was just about to go look for you. As he spoke, Zhao Guocheng reached into his robe and took out the key to open the bronze door and handed it to Ningyu. There's no hurry. Ningyu waved his hand, indicating that Zhao Guocheng didn't need to hurry. Zhao Guocheng was slightly stunned. He was a little confused. You're the one who asked for the key, and you're the one who said there's no hurry. What does that mean? Ningyu didn't care what Zhao Guocheng was thinking. He walked to a chair and sat down. Then, Ningyu looked at Zhao Guocheng without saying anything. Seeing Ningyu's actions, Zhao Guocheng swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. Ningyu and Zhao Guocheng didn't say anything. For a moment, the room became quiet, so quiet that it was a little scary. Drip, drip. As time passed, beads of sweat appeared on Zhao Guocheng's forehead. On the other hand, Ningyu was calm and composed, without any signs of discomfort. Ningyu. After another 10 minutes, Zhao Guocheng finally couldn't take it anymore and said, I still have something to do in the City Lord's mansion. How about I give you the key first? Well, put on the table. Ningyu gently knocked on the table and said. After receiving Ningyu's confirmation, Zhao Guocheng hurriedly took out the key and threw it on the table. After throwing the spoon on the table, Zhao Guocheng stood up and walked out of the room. Go back and tell the Elder of Heavenly Secrets and Yunmu that cooperation is cooperation. I do not wish to be schemed against by others. The moment Zhao Guocheng's right foot stepped out of the room, Ningyu's voice rang in his ears. After a brief moment of silence, Zhao Guocheng strode out and disappeared from Ningyu's sight. Buzz! Not long after Zhao Guocheng left, the space beside Ningyu fluctuated and a middle-aged man appeared. Did you get any useful information from him? Ningyu asked with his eyes narrowed. There's a seal in his sea of consciousness. I don't dare to devour his memories. Zhang Chong shook his head and answered honestly. Follow Zhao Guocheng to the City Lord's mansion. Protect him at the same time to prevent him from being targeted by the Heavenly Dragon Empire. After thinking about it, Ningyu decided to let Zhang Chong follow Zhao Guocheng. Since he could find the square restaurant, it meant that the Heavenly Dragon Empire already knew about his contact with Zhao Guocheng. On the surface, the Heavenly Dragon Empire still had one initial stage saint and 2 pinnacle saint realm cultivators. Even if they only sent a pinnacle Heavenly Supreme, they could easily capture Zhao Guocheng. Although Zhao Guocheng looked useless, he wasn't. Zhao Guocheng couldn't die before he was sure that the key in his hand could open the bronze gate. Swish! After receiving the order, Zhang Chong's figure flickered and disappeared. After Zhang Chong disappeared, Ningyu called an Haoping and the white-haired old man out. and Halping's cultivation was still in the late-stage saint realm, but the white-haired old man's cultivation had dropped to the initial stage saint realm. It could be seen that the white-haired old man was in a terrible situation. Ningyu, give me half a celestial ascension grass. I need it. The white-haired old man looked at Ningyu as if he had seen a life-saving straw. As long as you give me half a celestial ascension grass, I'll tell you a big secret. The white-haired old man was in a sorry state right now. If he didn't have the celestial ascension grass, his cultivation might be stuck at the initial stage saint realm for the rest of his life. The side effect of using his trump card was completely exposed. And Halping, guard the square restaurant. Ningyu ignored the white-haired old man and said to Halping, inform me immediately if anyone suspicious is approaching. Understood. And Halping responded, then tore open the void and dived in. Tell me what the secret is first. After watching Halping leave, Ningyu turned to stare at the white-haired old man and said calmly, if the secret is big enough, I can consider giving you some celestial ascension grass. Give me the celestial ascension grass first. The white-haired old man gritted his teeth. Humph. Ningyu harumphed coldly. Don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. All right. The white-haired old man chose to compromise after being rebuked by Ningyu. The reason why I was trapped in the dungeon of the Emperor Palace instead of being killed by the founder of the Emperor Palace is that I know of a place where the celestial spirit source energy is. The founder of the Emperor Palace is called Emperor Mo. He is currently at that place. Ningyu listened quietly because he knew that the white-haired old man would definitely tell him where the place was. As expected, when the white-haired old man saw that Ningyu had no reaction, he could only continue. That place is the Thousand Demons Ridge. When the words Myriad Devils Ridge came out of the white-haired old man's mouth, Ningyu's expression gradually turned solemn. Ningyu had heard of the Thousand Demons Ridge before. It was known as one of the 3 most terrifying places in the celestial spirit realm. It was rumored that there were many peerless villains buried in the Thousand Demons Ridge. Although those peerless villains were already dead, their skeletons were still intact. Moreover, the skeletons of those peerless villains also possessed terrifying combat power. Of course, peerless villains were not the reason why Ningyu's expression was solemn. Ningyu's expression was solemn because the human demon had mentioned the Thousand Demons Ridge when he was chatting with him. The human demon had personally said that there was a passage to a high-level plane within the Thousand Demons Ridge. In other words, from the deepest part of the Thousand Demons Ridge, one could directly reach a high-level plane. As for how to pass through that passage, Ningyu had no idea. Now that he heard the Thousand Demons Ridge again, Ningyu's expression naturally turned solemn. Can you give me the Celestial Ascension Grass now? Chapter 1785. I told you. Upon hearing the white-haired old man's words, Ningyu's solemn expression eased a little, and he said indifferently, if the secret is big enough, I can consider giving you some Ascension Immortal Grass. What do you mean? The white-haired old man's expression changed, and he asked in a deep voice. In the white-haired old man's opinion, Ningyu did not want to give him the Ascension Immortal Grass, so he used this excuse to brush him off. The origin source was in the Thousand Demons Ridge. If this kind of information could not be considered a big secret, then what was? Nothing. Ningyu shrugged and continued. I already know about the Thousand Demons Ridge. I don't need you to tell me. Although you know about the Thousand Demons Ridge, you don't know that the origin source is there. The white-haired old man was almost roaring. Fortunately, Ningyu had set up a soundproof array around the room. Otherwise, the white-haired old man's roar would have been heard by others. You're still hiding something from me. Ningyu suddenly felt that the white-haired old man seemed to have something that he was not telling him. Just the origin source in the Thousand Demons Ridge would not be able to deceive the founder of Emperor God Palace. No. The white-haired old man's eyes flickered, and he did not dare to look into Ningyu's eyes. If you don't want to say it, forget it. I still have something to do. You can reflect on yourself first. Ningyu stood up and walked out of the room. Actually, People like the white-haired old man were definitely full of secrets. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Ningyu would not kill him rashly. After all, he obtained the Ascension Immortal Grass from the white-haired old man. Who knew? He might be able to get something from the white-haired old man in the future. Therefore, Ningyu's attitude towards the white-haired old man was not to kill him and let him cause trouble. Of course, the white-haired old man could not even protect himself now. Even if he was asked to cause trouble, he did not have the ability to. Looking at Ningyu's back view, the white-haired old man's eyes were slightly dazed, and he looked very conflicted. He wanted to tell Ningyu his secret in exchange for the ascending immortal grass, but his heart was extremely unwilling. Even when he was trapped in the dungeon by the founder of the Emperor Palace, he did not reveal the secret in his heart. Instead, he found an excuse to trick the founder of the Emperor Palace into going to the Myriad Demon's Ridge. Now, he would definitely not be willing to sacrifice his secret in exchange for the Ascension Immortal Grass. Pucci. However, things always developed in an unpredictable direction. As soon as Ningyu left the room, the white-haired old man spat out a mouthful of dark red blood, and his aura became extremely weak. I'm willing to tell you the real secret. The white-haired old man used the last of his strength to roar towards the outside of the room. Thump! After saying this, the white-haired old man's body went limp, and he directly collapsed to the ground. Hu Wentian, deal with him. Don't let him die for now. Outside the room, Ningyu's footsteps paused for a moment, and then he immediately strode out of the square restaurant. There were many things to do, and Ningyu knew that this was not a good time to get to the bottom of the white-haired old man. Anyway, the white-haired old man was under his control. After solving the problem in Square Restaurant, it would not be too late to have a good talk with him. Crack! What Ningyu did not know was that the moment he left the room, in a secret room in Square Restaurant, an old man suddenly smashed the jade cup in his hand on the ground, and it broke into pieces. Next to the old man, two middle-aged men held their breath and did not dare to speak at all. Xietao is dead. The old man's expression was calm, and it was impossible to tell whether he was happy or angry. He said lightly, "What do you think of this matter? It must be the Jean family who set us up." A middle-aged man with a scar on the left side of his face clenched his fists, and he could not hide the anger on his face. That's right. If it were not for the Jean family, Xietao would not have gone to the Square Restaurant. The other middle-aged man was also furious, and he said fiercely, "We must let the Jean family know that we are not to be trifled with. Let the Jean family know that you are not to be trifled with." The old man was not angered by the words of the two middle-aged men. He raised his brows and said, "On the surface, the Jean family only left two initial Saint Realm experts and a late Heavenly Supreme. Can the three of us win against them?" The old man's question made the two middle-aged men's faces turn a little ugly. However, the middle-aged man with a scar on the left side of his face still braced himself and said, "Although we are not a match for the Jean family, our CF family still has someone in the void." "Shut up." Hearing this, the old man suddenly slammed the table and said coldly, "The four great empires all have backup plans, but our CF family is not the only one. In the future, I hope that you will use your brains to think before doing anything. If anyone dares to act recklessly again, don't blame me for being impolite." When the old man said those words, his attitude and tone were extremely cold. Those who did not know better would think that the two middle-aged men had made a big mistake. "Right, you two get ready. I'm going to the city lord's mansion." Ignoring the reaction of the two middle-aged men, the old man stood up and left the room. The two middle-aged men exchanged glances with each other before obediently following behind the old man and also disappearing from sight. At the same time, in a secret room not too far away from the old man, there were three cultivators, two initial Saint Realm and one late Heavenly Supreme. Among the three cultivators, the two initial Saint Realm cultivators were called Jin Ji and Jin Sheng, while the late Heavenly Supreme was called Jin Jun. Xietao was killed. Jin Ji was not tall, but he looked very sturdy. Jin Ji narrowed his eyes and said, I'm worried that the CF family will contact Ningyu. Don't worry. Jin Sheng waved his hand and said, the CF family does not have the guts for now. After a short pause, Jin Sheng continued, even if the CF family makes contact with Ningyu and the others, it will only be beneficial for us. Jin Ji raised an eyebrow and asked, what benefit? Jin Sheng smiled evilly. We can join forces with the Cloudy Wind Empire and the Purple Sun Empire to get rid of the Heavenly Dragon Empire. I'm more than happy to have one less person to share the immortal crystals with. What do you think we should do now? Jin Ji continued to ask. It's simple. Jin Sheng's lips curled up, and he said coldly, let's go to the City Lord's mansion and have a good chat with Zhao Guocheng. Isn't it inappropriate to go to the City Lord's mansion now? Jin Ji frowned. In Jin Ji's opinion, it was unwise to go to the City Lord's mansion now. The other three empires knew that the elder of Tianji was in the City Lord's mansion. The other three empires knew that the Jin family and the elder of Tianji had a grudge against each other. If they went to the City Lord's mansion now, they might attract the hostility of the other three empires. If they did not kick the CF family out, the Jin family might be kicked out instead. Listen to me. We must go to the City Lord's mansion now. Chapter 1786. City Lord's Mansion, Main Hall. The main hall wasn't small, but it seemed a little empty at this moment. To be precise, there were only 3 people in the main hall. Tianji Lauren, Yunmu, and Talisman Marshal Supreme. Do you think that Ningyu will help me? Yunmu paced back and forth in the main hall with a conflicted expression, plotting against Ningyu, dragging Ningyu into the water, and forcing him to participate in the immortal crystal mine were all Yunmu's plans. As his cultivation increased, Yunmu's memories from his past life kept awakening. However, the more memories he awakened, the more conflicted and uneasy he became. After going through all the information about Ningyu in his mind, Yunmu gritted his teeth and said, if Ningyu detained Zhao Guocheng, what should we do? Don't worry, Ningyu definitely won't detain Zhao Guocheng. Tianji Lauren waved his hand and said, you don't know, I secretly asked Zhao Guocheng to change the key. I'm afraid. Yunmu's voice became softer and softer. In the end, he didn't continue. Zhao Guocheng gave the key to Ningyu. Tianji Lauren said with certainty, that's why Ningyu definitely won't detain Zhao Guocheng. What? Yunmu's expression changed, and he said hurriedly, you gave the key to Ningyu, what should we do? Although Yunmu appeared to be regretful, he was still furious when he found out that the key was in Ningyu's hands. You know better than me that the key isn't in our hands. Even if Ningyu obtained the immortal crystals, he would only give us a few pieces at most. He wouldn't give us a large amount of immortal crystals. Yunmu was on the verge of exploding. The conflicted feeling he had just now disappeared at this moment. Yunmu even had the urge to run to the square restaurant and snatch the key back. Swoosh! At this moment, a figure flew in from outside the main hall and landed directly in the main hall. Zhao Guocheng. Seeing this figure, Yunmu's expression turned gloomy and he said coldly, you still dare to come back? Tell me honestly, why did you give the key to Ningyu? This, Zhao Guocheng had just returned and wanted to discuss an important matter with Yunmu and the others. Who would have thought that he would be questioned by Yunmu? His mouth opened and closed, but Zhao Guocheng didn't know what to say, so he could only turn his gaze to the Elder of Heavenly Secrets. Yunmu, becoming enemies with Ningyu is not a wise decision. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets said, Ningyu is an indescribably noble person. Whether or not we can survive this crisis will depend on Ningyu's assistance. Crisis? What crisis? Yunmu's mind stirred as he hastily asked. Look at me, I forgot the most important thing. Zhao Guocheng slapped his head and said hurriedly, when I came back from the square restaurant, there were at least 3 groups of people following me. Do you know who is following you? Elder Tianji frowned. The Jin clan of the Qinya Empire, the Xie clan of the Heavenly Dragon Empire, and the Lan clan of the Cloudy Wind Empire. I'm not sure if the Purple Sun Empire has caught up, Zhao Guocheng answered honestly. How did you know about this? Since they chose to follow you secretly, they definitely wouldn't let you discover them. Yin Mu's tone was cold as he said with a straight face. To be honest, Yin Mu didn't believe Zhao Guoqing's words. Zhao Guoqing was only a late heavenly supreme. If the people from the three empires were following him, he definitely wouldn't be able to discover anything. One must know that the leaders left behind by the three empires this time around were all sage-level cultivators. Yimu knew very well what kind of person Zhao Guoqing was. He might be strong in the square restaurant, but in front of a sage, it would be difficult for him to block even one move. I wasn't the one who discovered it. Zhao Guoqing shook his head and said, "When I left the square restaurant, Ningyu had a middle stage sage follow me. It was that middle stage sage who discovered it. Where is that middle stage sage now?" The Elder of Heavenly Secrets knew who Zhao Guoqing was talking about as soon as he said middle stage sage. Zhang Chong. There were a total of 3 sages beside Ningyu. Middle stage sage Zhang Chong, late stage sage white-haired elder, and an Haoping. Therefore, as soon as Zhao Guoqing said that, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets determined that it was Zhang Chong. He asked me to come in first and stayed outside the City Lord's mansion to stop those who followed me, Zhao Guoqing said. Oh no, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets' expression changed. Zhang Chong was only a middle stage sage. If the middle stage sage from the Purple Sun Empire didn't come, everything would be fine. At least Zhang Chong wouldn't be killed. However, once the middle stage sage from the Purple Sun Empire came, Zhang Chong would definitely be in danger under the siege of the experts from the 4 empires. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets had a lot to do with the Elder of Heavenly Secrets forcing Ningyu to stay in the square restaurant. Without the Elder of Heavenly Secrets as a middleman, Yun Mu couldn't force Ningyu to succeed. Therefore, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets didn't want to see anything happen to Zhang Chong, which would lead to a complete break with Ningyu. Let's go out now. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets immediately decided to go out. Although the Elder of Heavenly Secrets knew that if he went out now, he might face the people from the 4 empires. However, if he didn't go out now, he would completely offend Ningyu. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets had the guts to offend the 4 empires. Offending you? Unfortunately, even if the Elder of Heavenly Secrets had the guts, he wouldn't dare to take action. The best solution was to show his attitude in advance and stand on the same side as Zhang Chong before Ningyu came over. Otherwise, when Ningyu arrived, he would find that they were still in the City Lord's mansion while Zhang Chong was alone outside dealing with the 3 empires. No, it should be the 4 empires. What would Ningyu think then? Therefore, he had to go out immediately. The Elder of Heavenly Secrets didn't care about what Yunmu thought. His figure flashed, and he left the hall. After the Elder of Heavenly Secrets left, sigh. Yunmu and the Venerable of Talisman Martial Arts looked at each other and sighed. They tore the void and went in together. Seeing the Elder of Heavenly Secrets and Yunmu leave, Zhao Guoqing stood on the spot in a daze. Zhao Guoqing didn't understand why they would go out foolishly when there was a mid-stage sage guarding the City Lord's mansion. Even if the Elder of Heavenly Secrets and Yunmu went out, they wouldn't be able to help that mid-stage sage. Instead, they would only add to the chaos. Forget it. Since everyone is going, I'll go out too. After thinking about it, Zhao Guoqing sighed and hurriedly followed them. There were some things he couldn't figure out, and Zhao Guoqing didn't want to think about it. Anyway, even if the sky collapsed, there would be someone taller to hold it up. He had already given the key to Ningyu. Even if both sides really fought, it would be difficult to affect him. Zhao Guoqing even made up his mind. As long as Ningyu's side showed signs of defeat and the situation was hopeless, he would immediately use his secret technique to leave. As the saying went, where there's life, there's hope. Chapter 1787. You're the middle stage Saint Martial Artist beside Ningyu. For Corner City, outside the main gate of the city governor's mansion, Jin Ji crossed his arms in front of his chest and stared at Zhang Chong with great interest. He said, "Let me advise you to leave as soon as possible if you don't want to die. Otherwise, I'll let you know why flowers are red. Why are you talking nonsense with him? Jean Sheng shrugged and said, he's just a middle-stage Saint martial artist. It's not a big deal to kill him. Humph, you're quite arrogant. Zhang Chong snorted and said gloomily, I'd like to see how you two are going to kill me. Oh, you're quite hot-tempered. Hearing Zhang Chong's words, Jin Ji raised his eyebrows and said disdainfully, there are a total of 5 early-stage Saint martial artists in our 4 empires. There's even a middle-stage Saint martial artist. Do you think you can escape under our siege? Stop! Stop! As soon as Jin Ji's voice fell, the old man on the other side hurriedly waved his hand. The old man who waved his hand was none other than the early-stage Saint martial artist from the Xie family of the Heavenly Dragon Empire. Xiaoliang, what do you mean by this? Jin Ji clenched his fists and roared at the old man. The 4 empires have joined forces. You can't help outsiders. Jin Ji was very angry. At such a critical moment, Xiaoliang dared to make trouble and put him in a difficult position. Jin Ji secretly made up his mind that once the 4-corner city was closed, the first thing he would do was to kill Xiaoliang. I won't deny that the 4 empires have joined forces, but then Xiaoliang changed the topic and said lightly, the enmity between the Jin family and Ningyu has nothing to do with the 3 empires. You can solve it yourselves. If I'm not mistaken, this middle-stage Saint martial artist has a close relationship with Ningyu. Don't tell me you want to use us to help you eliminate Ningyu's people. Nonsense. This is utter nonsense. Jin Ji was so angry that his nose was crooked. He cursed Xiaoliang 70 or 80 times as hard. Although he cursed him, Jin Ji would not clash with Xiaoliang again at this time. His gaze shifted towards the Cloudy Wind Empire and the Purple Sun Empire. It was fine if the Xie family refused to help, but if the Cloudy Wind Empire and the Purple Sun Empire refused to help, he would have to bear the consequences. After all, Zhang Chang's cultivation was at the middle stage of the Sage Realm. It was impossible for him and Jin Cheng to defeat him. Xiaoliang is right. Our Lan family doesn't want to get involved in the feud between you and Ningyu. After a moment of silence, Lan Ming, an early-stage saint from the Cloudy Wind Empire's Lan family, said, as for the immortal crystal lode, I hope that the Jin family will not hold us back. Take care of your own business. The other early-stage saint warrior of the Lan family, Lan Hua, did not have such a good temper. He said coldly, we have no enmity with this middle-stage saint warrior. Why should we make him our enemy? Whoosh! The Lan family's rejection seemed to be within Jin Ji's expectations. He took a deep breath and looked at the middle-stage saint from the Purple Sun Empire. Ziyun. Her name was Ziyun, a saint born and raised in the Purple Sun Empire. Rumor had it that Ziyun's real battle prowess had reached the late-stage saint level. Some even said that Ziyun's battle prowess was comparable to a peak saint. Of course, rumors were just rumors. Very few people had proven it. However, one thing was enough to prove that Ziyun's battle prowess was powerful. This time, the Jin family of the Qinya Empire, the Lan family of the Cloudy Wind Empire, and the Xie family of the Heavenly Dragon Empire had experts hidden in the dark. Only Ziyun had come from the Purple Sun Empire. There were no experts hiding in the void. Therefore, Jin Ji was not particularly worried that the Lan and Xie families had refused to help. As long as Ziyun was willing to help, capturing Zhang Chong would be a piece of cake. Ziyun's attitude was what Jin Ji was most concerned about. You and Ziyun frowned and pointed at Zhang Chong. Ziyun seemed to feel that it was inappropriate to ask such a question. She paused for a moment before continuing. What kind of feud does the Jin family have with Ningyu? Jin Ji opened his mouth when he heard Ziyun's question. There was a hint of nervousness in his eyes. It seemed that Ziyun did not intend to help. He could not possibly say that the Jin family had formed a feud with Ningyu in order to control the Elder of Heavenly Secrets. Could he? Jin Ji patted his head and began to seek help from the experts of the Jin family who were hiding in the void. Standing still, Jin Ji fell into silence. After a while, Jin Ji's gaze became firm again. He said to Ziyun, The celestial spirit realm Jin family is the royal family of the Qinye Empire. There are at least 80 geniuses who have died in the hands of Ningyu. There is an irreconcilable feud between the Jin family and Ningyu. Tui. Xiaoyang was the one who ruined Jinji's plan. Xiaoyang spat and said coldly, "The royal family of the Qinye Empire is not even a top force in the Pellet Formation continent. How could there be 100 geniuses? Please think carefully before you talk big. Don't make a fool of yourself. You're speaking up for Ningyu. Are you colluding with Ningyu to seize the immortal crystal mine?" Jinji finally couldn't take it anymore and cursed. "Not long ago, I personally saw a pinnacle heavenly sovereign of your Xie family going to the four-way restaurant, and he still hasn't come out. I'm afraid that the one colluding with Ningyu isn't my Jin family. It's your Xie clan, right?" "Bullshit," Xiao Yang roared. "Thief calling thief, it's all your fault. If you didn't tell us false information, how could Xie Tao die? What does that have to do with me?" Jinji said coldly. "At this time, Xie Tao might still be in the square restaurant. In my opinion, we should all of you shut up." Xiao Yang and Jinji's quarrel made Ziyun's face pale. Roaring, Ziyun continued, "If anyone doesn't want the immortal crystal vein, then speak up and get lost." Seeing Ziyun's rage, Xiao Yang and Jinji shut their mouths at the same time. Standing together with Ziyun, they felt that their level was a little lower. After all, Ziyun's level was the same as those hidden in the void. "All of you aren't speaking?" Ziyun's gaze slowly swept across the faces of Xiao Yang and the rest as she said in a solemn voice, "All of you better behave yourselves. Without my permission, don't blame me for not giving you any face if you continue to argue. I'll kick you out." "Oomph." Xiao Yang and Jinji looked at each other and snorted at the same time. Then, they turned their heads away and stopped talking. "Let me ask you." Ziyun turned her head and looked at Zhang Chang. Zhao Guochang went to the four-way restaurant not long ago. Then, is the key in Ningyu's hands? Or is it still in the city lord's mansion? Chapter 1788. Zhao Guochang did go to the square restaurant. Zhang Chang wasn't particularly disgusted by Ziyun's attitude. He sorted out his thoughts and said, "But I'm not sure if the key to open the bronze door is in Ningyu's hands." "Not sure?" Ziyun knitted her brows and said, "Call Zhao Guochang out. I have something to ask him." "You can ask me anything. There's no need to call Zhao Guochang." At this moment, a faint voice came from the city lord's mansion. Creak. Then, an old man slowly walked out from the city lord's mansion. Behind the old man, two women and one man walked out side by side. Old Man Tianji. The old man was none other than Old Man Tianji. As for the two women and a man, they were Yun Mu, the Talisman Supremacy, and Zhao Guochang. After coming out of the city lord's mansion, Old Man Tianji said, "I can clearly tell you that the key isn't in Zhao Guochang's hands." "Oh." Ziyun raised her brows and looked at Old Man Tianji. Due to her long seclusion, Ziyun's understanding of Old Man Tianji was limited to some books or from word of mouth. This was the first time Ziyun saw Old Man Tianji. This person isn't simple. Ziyun's first impression of Old Man Tianji was that he wasn't simple. However, Ziyun wasn't a fortune teller. She sorted out her thoughts and said, "If the key isn't in Zhao Guochang's hands, could it be in yours?" Old Man Tianji smiled and said, "It doesn't matter who has the key. What's important is the ownership of the immortal crystal vein." "What do you mean?" Ziyun's expression was a little unsightly as she coldly said, "The ownership of the immortal crystal vein had already been discussed by the four empires. Each empire would get a quarter. Now, that Old Man Tianji was involved. Was he trying to get a share?" "Nothing." Old Man Tianji shrugged and said, "I've calculated it. There's at most 1,000 immortal crystals in the vein. If it's divided among the four empires, each empire will only get 250. So what?" Ziyun frowned. "Isn't it obvious? One less is one." As he spoke, Old Man Tianji's gaze fell on Jinji. "Old fart, are you trying to sow discord between us?" Seeing that Elder Tianji intended to kick him out, Jinji immediately flew into a rage and said, "I think you're tired of living." The next moment, Jin Ji released the aura of an early-stage sage and pressed down on old man Tianji. Oof. However, before Jin Ji's aura could reach the Elder of Heavenly Secrets, a cold snort resounded. There was no doubt that it was Zhang Chong who snorted. Zhang Chong took a step forward, standing firmly in front of Tianji Lauren. An aura that was even more terrifying than Jin Ji's was emitted from Zhang Chong's body and collided with Jin Ji's aura. Chi-chi. The two auras collided, erupting out sizzling sounds. Jin Ji was only at the early stage of the Sage Realm, while Zhang Chong was at the middle stage of the Sage Realm. They were competing in momentum, and the result was self-evident. Zhang Chong had the upper hand, courting death. Seeing that Jin Ji was on the verge of collapsing, Jin Cheng could not stop himself from swearing. His aura abruptly burst out. Chi-chi-chi-chi. Jin Ji and Jin Cheng's aura joined together to resist Zhang Chong's aura. Although he was still no match for Zhang Chong, he was in a much better situation compared to his previous decline. Sigh, some people really can't do anything right. Right at this moment, Xiao Yang sighed lightly and said unhurriedly, "Our original intention of coming to the city governor's estate this time was to test the pressure for Zhao Guoqing and obtain the key to open the bronze door. We're not here to watch some people deal with things. Don't go too far." Since Jin Ji and Jin Cheng were trying their best to resist Zhang Chong's aura, it was the remaining late-stage Sky Supreme from the Jin family who spoke. "Ha!" Xiao Yang's face turned cold, and he waved his right hand in the air. A crisp sound resounded, and a late-stage Sky Supreme from the Jin family was sent flying. "Elder Tianji, is it really okay for you to do this? Aren't you afraid that they will do something desperate?" Yin Mu furrowed his brows and lowered his voice. "If Xian stands on the Jin family's side, we won't be able to bear the consequences today." In fact, it was no wonder that Yin Mu was nervous. At this point, Yin Mu had already seen some clues. The people from the four great empires weren't as simple as they seemed. At the very least, the four great empires had a backup plan. "Don't worry, Ningyu's been here for a long time." Elder Tianji waved his hand, indicating that Yin Mu didn't need to worry. "He's here? Where is he? Why don't I see him?" Yin Mu turned his head and asked, "Let's wait a little longer. It's not the time to come out yet." Elder Tianji smiled. "All right, let's wait a little longer." Since Elder Tianji didn't want to say anything, Yin Mu could only give up. At the same time, in the sky not far from the city lord's mansion, two cultivators were hidden inside. One of them was Ningyu, and the other was Enhaoping. "Do you know the cultivation of the other three cultivators?" Ningyu's expression was solemn as he said in a low voice, "What are your chances of winning if you fight the three of them? Their cultivation is the same as mine, late-stage Saint Realm." And Halping didn't dare to be negligent. "Although I can't kill them one-on-one, I can suppress them completely." "I see." Ningyu frowned, as if he was thinking about what to do next. "Actually, the three of them aren't the strongest. The strongest is that woman." While Ningyu was thinking, and Halping continued, "Although that woman's cultivation is mid-stage Saint Realm, I can feel a terrifying aura from her. That aura makes my heart palpitate." "That woman?" Ningyu couldn't help but look at Ziyun. Zhang Chong said that Ziyun was a native saint of the Purple Sun Empire. Her cultivation had reached mid-stage Saint Realm. At that time, Zhang Chong praised Ziyun very much. Now, that Enhaoping said that Ziyun wasn't simple, it could be seen that Ziyun was most likely pretending to be weak. Rumble. Not long after Ningyu shifted his gaze, an earth-shattering explosion was heard from afar. A great battle broke out in an instant. Jin Ji and Jin Cheng knew very well that they were no match for Zhang Chong in terms of momentum. If they fought, they might be able to subdue Zhang Chong with their profound cultivation methods and abundant primordial qi. And Halping, keep an eye on that late-stage Saint Realm martial artist of the Jin family. Ningyu's eyes turned cold. He hurriedly ordered Enhaoping, who was next to him. Then he sent a voice transmission to Zhang Chong. "Zhang Chong, go all out and kill him." "Roger." Zhang Chong was still angry that he couldn't go all out. Chapter 1789. Rumble. In front of the city lord's mansion, an earth-shattering battle broke out in an instant. Ha ha ha. Not long after the battle broke out, Jin Ji, who was in the middle of the battlefield, raised his head and laughed. Silver spear wax head, nice to look at but useless. We can go on like this. Staring at the battlefield, Ningyu became a little anxious. In a normal fight, Jin Ji and Jin Sheng were no match for Zhang Chang. However, in order to prevent the aftermath of the battle from spreading around, Zhang Chang tried to maintain the stability of the void around him while fighting. After all, Jin Ji and Jin Sheng came from a higher plane. They did not care about destroying the city lord's mansion and Four Corner City. Zhang Chang, if I block one of them for you, how long will it take for you to kill the other one? After pondering for a moment, Ningyu transmitted his voice to Zhang Chang again. 1 minute to severely injure, 3 minutes to kill. Hearing Ningyu's voice transmission, Zhang Chang was stunned at first, and then hurriedly said, "But the premise is that no one intervenes." What Zhang Chang cared about was not whether Ningyu could block Jin Ji or Jin Sheng, but whether the martial artists hidden in the void and the people of the other three empires would intervene. Once they intervened, even if Ningyu blocked Jin Ji or Jin Sheng, it would be useless. You can rest assured about this. Regarding what Zhang Chang was worried about, Ningyu gave an affirmative answer. The four empires seemed to be a monolithic block, but in fact, they were extremely loose internally. Forces tied together by interests were destined not to last too long. As long as new interests were involved, the original forces would collapse 80% of the time. Swoosh! Without letting Zhang Chang wait too long, the moment Ningyu's voice fell, he turned into a shadow and rushed out. You dare to be distracted while fighting with us? I think you are tired of living. Seeing Zhang Chang slightly distracted, Jin Ji's mouth curled up, and an extremely cold smile came from his mouth. Today, I will let you know that there are some people you can never. Jin Ji had only spoken halfway when he stopped abruptly and hurriedly chose to retreat. At the same time, as he retreated, Jin Ji shouted, "Who is it?" Sneakily hiding in the void. "Come out and fight if you have the guts." The reason why Jin Ji dared to scold him in such a tone was because he could feel the aura coming from the void. This aura was only at the heavenly supreme realm, not even a half-saint realm. Jin Ji could easily kill quasi-saint realm cultivators with a flip of his hand, not to mention heavenly sovereigns. Therefore, after a short period of shock, Jin Ji completely calmed down and said coldly, "Whoever offends the Jin family will be skinned alive." "As you wish." An indifferent voice came from the void. "Chi-chi." Along with the faint words, there was a sizzling sound of flesh rubbing against the void. Ningyu. When Jin Jishang saw the cultivator that suddenly appeared, he did not have much of a reaction. However, the expressions of Yun Mu and the heavenly secret elder in the distance changed drastically. From their point of view, no matter how strong Ningyu was, he could not be a match for an early-stage Saint Realm cultivator. It was not a wise move for Ningyu to choose to come out of the void and fight Jin Ji, who was an early-stage Saint Realm cultivator. I can wear out iron shoes in fruitless searching, only to find it effortlessly. Jin Ji was overjoyed and even jumped up. Capture Ningyu. Jin Ji immediately changed his strategy. He gave up on Zhang Chang and captured Ningyu first. There was a path to heaven, but you didn't take it. Instead, you barged into hell. Looking at Ningyu approaching him, Jin Ji squinted his eyes and could not hide the excitement in his heart. Rumble. On the other side, Jin Sheng and Zhang Chang were fighting. He was suppressed to the point that he could not breathe. Even so, Jin Sheng looked very excited on the surface. As long as he could capture Ningyu, it was not a big deal for him to be suppressed. Ningyu run! The Tianji Laoren and Yunmu yelled. The Tianji Laoren even wanted to make a move himself. If it wasn't for the talisman Venerable holding onto the Tianji Laoren and Yunmu, they would have already charged out. The Tianji Laoren charged out because he did not want to see Ningyu being killed. He wanted to help Ningyu and build a good relationship with Ningyu. As for Yunmu charging out, it was mostly because of the key. The key to open the bronze gate was in Ning Yu's hands. If Ning Yu was killed by Jin Ji, the key would definitely fall into Jin Ji's hands. In order to prevent the key from falling into Jin Ji's hands, Yinmu had to make a move. This Ning Yu is indeed not simple. Seeing how Ning Yu faced Jin Ji without any change in his expression, Ziyun's eyes flashed with interest. Let's not talk about whether Ning Yu could withstand Jin Ji's attack. Just his courage alone was enough to make others have a whole new level of respect for him. One must know that when Ziyun was at the middle heavenly supreme stage, she did not dare to fight head-on with an initial stage saint. Could he be someone from a higher plane? Ziyun knitted her brows. She couldn't help unleashing her perception in an attempt to probe Ning Yu. Swoosh! However, before Ziyun's perception could land on Ning Yu's body, a powerful perception swept over from her body. No wonder he dared to go against the Jin family. So there's someone behind him. Ziyun immediately retracted her perception when she sensed the late-stage saint's aura sweeping over her. She no longer cared about the fight between Ning Yu and Jin Ji. Die. It's best if you kill that old fart, Jin Ji. In the Heavenly Dragon Empire, Xiao Yang clenched his fists and secretly cheered for Ning Yu. As for the Lan family of the Cloudy Wind Empire, they were also leaning towards Ning Yu's side. If it was not for their feelings, the other three empires would most likely hit him when he was down. Heaven-shattering. When he was a dozen steps away from Jin Ji, Ning Yu immediately took out the black dragon sword with a thought. Ning Yu channeled the vitality in his body into the black dragon sword and recited a mantra before he suddenly swung his sword. Whoosh! As Ning Yu uttered the words heaven-shattering, a terrifying sword radiance separated from the black dragon sword and slashed towards Jin Ji. What? Jin Ji had thought that Ning Yu could not withstand a single blow, but his expression changed when he saw the sword radiance that Ning Yu had unleashed. Although Jin Ji's expression changed, he was indeed an initial stage saint from a higher plane. He immediately reacted by mobilizing the vitality in his sea of consciousness to form a Yuan Qi sword radiance, which collided with Ning Yu's sword radiance. The two terrifying sword radiances collided. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion resounded in the area. Following that, the two figures retreated rapidly. Just from the distance they retreated, it was clear that the two of them were evenly matched. However, Jin Ji spat out a mouthful of blood from the impact, while Ning Yu stood unscathed. Only his ankles had sunk into the ground. Whoosh! After a single blow, the surroundings erupted into an uproar. Ning Yu was only a mid-heavenly supreme, while Jin Ji was an initial stage saint. Not only was a mid-heavenly supreme not killed by a single blow from an initial stage saint, he even had a slight advantage. Chapter 1790. I want you to die. Being stared at by the strange eyes around him, Jin Ji let out a hysterical roar. Shameful. Extremely shameful. So shameful. Jin Ji was very angry. If looks could kill, he would have already done it. But unfortunately, looks could not kill. It could only let everyone see his angry mind at this time. There are many people who want me dead. Who do you think you are? Ning Yu leaped up and pulled his feet out of the pit. He shrugged his shoulders and said, I advise you to surrender as soon as possible. Otherwise, if I kill you later, it won't just be you who will lose face, but the entire Jin family. Jin Ji almost went crazy. Obviously, he could not accept Ning Yu's mockery. Jin Ji finally broke out in anger. He exerted the aura of the early stage of the Sage Realm and pressed down on Ning Yu. Crack! However, as soon as Jin Ji exerted his aura, the outcome of the battle on the other side of the battlefield was decided. Zhang Chong raised his right foot and kicked Jin Cheng's chest fiercely. A crisp cracking sound rang out. Several of Jin Cheng's ribs were broken on the spot. Stop! Zhang Chong jumped up and flew to Jin Cheng's side in an instant. He stepped on Jin Cheng's forehead with his right foot and said coldly, If you dare to attack Ning Yu again, I promise that your head will explode. Swish! Jin Ji's face was extremely gloomy, but he had no choice but to withdraw his aura and stop in the air. Ah, what a pity. Seeing Jinji stop, Ningyu sighed and shrugged. I thought I could have a good fight with you today. I didn't expect to encounter such a thing. After saying this, Ningyu ignored Jinji's murderous eyes and went straight to Zhang Chong. Ningyu did not walk too fast. It could even be said that he was very slow. In the process of moving forward, Ningyu was very careful. Just earlier, An Halping sent a message saying that the Jin clan cultivator hidden in the void was very angry and seemed like he would charge out at any moment. Ningyu didn't want to put himself in danger. Even a rabbit would bite when it was cornered. What if the warrior at the late stage of the Saint realm of the Jin family, who was hiding in the void, attacked him with all his strength? In order to give the Jin family's experts time to breathe, Ningyu walked very slowly. About 3 minutes later, Ningyu came to Zhang Chong. I'm curious. Ningyu stared at Jin Chong and asked in confusion, why does the Jin clan want to catch me? You'll die for offending our Jin family. Jin Cheng's eyes flashed with malice as he said coldly, not only will you die, but your friends and your clan will all die. Ningyu frowned slightly and didn't speak. Seeing that Ningyu didn't speak, Jin Cheng roared and shouted, You'd better let me go, or this day next year will be the anniversary of your death. This day next year will be the anniversary of my death. What a familiar sentence. Ningyu squinted his eyes as if he was reminiscing about the past. After a while, Ningyu said to Zhang Chong, satisfy him. What? Zhang Chong was slightly stunned and asked in confusion, Didn't you hear me? Ningyu's face was completely gloomy, and a cold voice came from his mouth. I'll let you satisfy him, and let this day next year be the anniversary of his death. Boom! When these words fell into Zhang Chong's mind, he was stunned and his head was about to explode. Kill Jin Cheng? It should be known that there was a warrior at the late stage of the Saint realm in the void. Wasn't Ningyu afraid that Jin Cheng would risk his life to kill him at this time? Zhang Chong was not the only one who thought so. The other warriors around, and even the warriors at the late stage of the Saint realm in the void, thought the same as Zhang Chong. Forget it. It seems that you can't satisfy him. Just when everyone thought that Ningyu was joking, Ningyu waved his hand and said, Since you can't satisfy him, let me do it. Hearing the first half of Ningyu's words, Zhang Chong, Elder Tianji, and the others showed a look of relief. However, when they heard the second half of Ningyu's words, their pupils instantly shrank, and they looked at Ningyu in horror. Swoosh! Ningyu held the black dragon sword in his hand and suddenly slashed out. The black dragon sword was very fast. The sword slashed through the void and split it in half. As for Jin Cheng, he was lying flat on the ground with his eyes wide open. Swoosh! After the first slash, Ningyu did not hold back and immediately slashed out a second time. The target of Ningyu's second slash was Jin Ji. Looking at the sword radiance flying toward him, Jin Ji raised his right hand and uttered the word "You." Don't thank me. Ningyu withdrew the black dragon sword and stood side by side with Zhang Chong. He said indifferently, This day next year will be the anniversary of your death. Silence. There was a dead silence. The early stage Saint Realm warriors from the Jin family, Jin Ji and Jin Cheng, had been killed by Ningyu one after the other. Whoosh! It was not until a minute after Jin Ji and Jin Cheng died that the surrounding people's eyes shifted to the void not far away. There, the Jin family's late-stage Saint Realm warriors were hiding. Crack! 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 In the void, the Jin family's late-stage Saint Realm warrior, Jin Fei, clenched his fists tightly, his face gloomy. Ever since they descended from a high-level plane to the celestial spirit realm, the Jin family had been humiliated again and again. First, the plan in Giant Shield City was easily resolved by Elder Tianji. Then, 2 early-stage Saint Realm warriors were killed by Ningyu. This hatred was greater than the heavens. What's with the two of you? Although they hated each other, Jin Fei was not a fool. His main mission in Four Corner City was to obtain the immortal crystals in the immortal crystal mine. If he fought with Ningyu now, His chances of winning were high, and he could vent his anger. However, there was a high chance that he would be kicked out of the alliance. Therefore, before he attacked, Jean Fei needed to ask for the opinion of the two late-stage Saint Realm warriors from the Cloudy Wind Empire and the Heavenly Dragon Empire. This is the Jean family's matter. The Xie family will not get involved. The Xie family's late-stage Saint Realm warrior was called Xie Yan. He shrugged and said indifferently. Jean Fei then shifted his gaze to the Lan family's late-stage Saint Realm warrior, Lan Chao. Don't look at me. I'm neutral. Lan Chao waved his hand and said, as long as there are immortal crystals, everything is negotiable. I'm so angry. You two old foxes, I'll deal with you sooner or later. Jean Fei was furious when he heard Lan Chao and Xie Yan's words. How could Jean Fei not understand the meaning behind their words? Go ahead and cause trouble. We won't interfere, nor will we get involved. 50 immortal crystals. Jean Fei gritted his teeth and said, help me block that late-stage Saint Realm warrior in the void, and I'll give you 50 immortal crystals. Xie Yan and Lan Chao looked at each other and saw the excitement in each other's eyes. They did not need to attack. As long as they blocked a late-stage Saint Realm warrior, they would get 50 immortal crystals. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.